Hello and welcome to the second day of the semi-finals. FIDE Grand Prix 2022 approaches its end. We already know the names of the qualifiers from the entire Grand Prix series. We know the names of the semi-finalists, Jesse, and also we know the result of the first game, right?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm really excited to watch the games and of course commentate on these games today. How are you doing, Miro?
Well, anticipating a big fight today. So I'm excited for Mamedyarov trying to beat Nakamura. That's what I'll be looking forward to. Amin Tabatabai has a very hard task to beat Wesley So. Well, at least good for him. He has the white pieces. At least in terms of the opening,
must-win situation.
In terms of the opening, he can try, but that's a really tough task when you have to beat Wesley, who seems to be incredibly solid. Didn't lose a single game, Wesley saw, if we are talking classical chess, right? So, oh, hang on, or maybe I'm wrong. I think Berlin in the first, did he lose? In the first tournament, do you remember, Jesse? I mean, I remember him playing a tiebreak against Dominguez and losing the tiebreak, but did he? No, he probably didn't lose. It's just Dominguez won an awful lot of games. Yeah, they tied on +2. Wesley winning.
You're referring to Hikaru?
No, Wesley, of course, yeah. Okay, Hikaru is solid himself, but he has lost games, and I mean, could lose more. Just that once again he won a lot. Right. So we still have a few minutes before the start, and I think might be a good time to remind about our sponsors, watch the sponsors ads. Remind us ourselves about FIDE Online Arena and Vidit's collaboration with it. Right. So. We'll be back after short videos, and the games will start by then, hopefully.
Hi, I'm Vidit Gujarati. I'm 27 years old, an international chess grandmaster from India. I'm also the brand ambassador for FIDE Online Arena. It's a place where you can play for online rating and online titles which can be recognized by FIDE officially. I feel chess is a sport which can be definitely played online, which other sports don't enjoy the luxury of. And the most important thing is that you can play from the comfort of your home, be it any time, against strong players all around the globe. And since the past 2 years, we have seen a boom in online chess. And be it for professional players or for people who have just started, I think it provides a great opportunity. In the next few months, I'll be streaming and playing games on the FIDE Online Arena. So be a part of it, and who knows, maybe we'll end up playing a game with each other. See you soon on the FIDE Online Arena.
So we are back. Game's not started yet, I believe. Couple of minutes still before the start. We can see Hikaru already seated.
He's always early to the party, making sure he has that cup of tea next to him. But yeah, games are about to start in about 2 minutes.
I think it was the case in the first, during the first tournament when Hikaru would be sitting, and especially in the final, if you remember, Hikaru against Aronian, Hikaru would be seated waiting for Levon, who would arrive like a couple of seconds before the game starts.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I was thinking a bit about the openings of, it's always nice to speculate about what opening is they going to play. For Mamedyarov and Naka, I think it's, Mamedyarov almost always goes d4, it seems. Okay. So, I don't know, some Queen's Gambit, quite possibly. For these lads, Tabatabai and Wesley So, honestly, I'm not so sure what's good.
I was going to ask what sort of opening would give both white and black the most chances.
For Tabatabai, he probably has a choice between e4 and d4, but in both cases that's going to be something very solid from Sosa. I believe e4 would be answered with e5, and then it's quite possibly the Petrov, or we had one Petrov yesterday, right? Wasn't very exciting. So it's quite possibly the Petrov from Wesley So, the Berlin is an option. So something extremely solid against e4. And against d4, he can do, once again, a variety of things. A Queen's Gambit, we might as well have two Queen's Gambits today. Like Mamedyarov, Nakamura, we can see the handshakes, and the game's starting. Mamedyarov opens with d4. d4, knight f6, c4. That's an interesting moment. C4, e6. And that, I've already mentioned it a couple of times. A few years back, it would be black kind of trying to scare white of knight c3. So knight c3, bishop b4, are you ready to play the Nimzo? And the answer usually would be no. So white would go knight f3, and Mamedyarov does play knight f3. But the argument I had is that recently there seems to be quite a few fresh ideas in the Nimzo, so people trying to play 3 knight c3. And then I would really be interested in seeing Hikaru's response. Because after knight c3, as I said...
Oh, we have it.
As I said, usually it would be bishop b4 and the Nimzo. But it might as well be that Hikaru would start with this moves order and then still would go for d5, transposing to a Queen's Gambit. Because I don't think he's that big of a Nimzo player. He's more of a Queen's Gambit player.
Okay.
So now it is a Queen's Gambit, but the knight's already on f3, right? So knight f3, d5, knight c3, bishop e7,
and
bishop f4. Yeah, and a bishop f4 is an interesting one, because what Hikaru, castles is fine. E2, e3 will be played. And then what Hikaru is used to do is play knight d7. White would go c5, black would go knight h5, and basically they would play this position. So e3, once again knight d7, c5, knight h5, then black exchanges on f4, very next move, after say bishop d3, knight f4, pawn takes, it jumps all the time, so once again. Guys, stop making the move so quickly. Right, so something along the lines of c6, b4, b6, it's a lot of moves I'll be making quickly, but that's by then it's already sort of established theory. G3, bishop a6, and they trade the bishops, and so on, so on. On and on it goes, and the conclusion, current conclusion, is that it's holdable. With black, there is nothing wrong. But it's just that not to everybody's taste. So some people prefer to play something else, simply not to end up in a kind of a passive position, right? So that's one thing, and it kind of suits, I mean, this scenario kind of suits the the objective of this game for Mamedyarov. So he wants to try, but at the same time, he wouldn't really
overexert properly.
Yeah, he doesn't want to take a lot of risk, right? Okay. So that would be a very nice scenario for Mamedyarov. C6, B4. Oh, well, that's interesting. C6, B4, B6, and H4. So that's something, yeah, that's something, in fact, much more, I mean, much sharper. Something much sharper this time. So
we'll see
H4.
who this opening suits
Look,
better.
I mean, it's like H4. Some people play H3 here. So it's not, usually it is connected with just white preserving the bishop after knight h5, right? So knight h5 kind of loses its point because now it's simply bishop h2, so you do not trade the knight. H4 kind of serves the same purpose if black goes knight h5. Yeah, I can still play bishop h2, but I believe if black doesn't do it, then h4, you probably push the pawn further even, or try to use the g5 square. So it's more of an aggressive
So is h5
try.
for black good here?
h5, I don't think so, because it's like you're moving the pawns from your castle position. Now, I think you should probably do something that you would have done in the h3 line, which is knight e4, or a5, a3,
like
yeah,
it was responded already.
a5, a3, right? But that's sort of an automatic inclusion, right? Black tries to undermine the chain, the c5 pawn. Basically, white tries to keep it intact. So therefore, a3 to be able to respond. Like b4, yeah, bc5, bc5.
And I know you mentioned this bishop a6 as well. Is it still possible now that the bishop is on f1?
a6, not sure, because then we are entering a very dangerous line if bishop a6 will be played. I'm not sure if it holds or not. Bishop takes a6, rook a6. Why I'm not sure, because I remember this being played with the pawn on h3. So I'm not sure if pawn on h4 instead of h3 makes an awful lot of difference, but the line would be something like this. b5, c takes b5, c6. And then the knight is trapped, right? So you can't really go to b8 because c7. But black goes b4. And then if you take, its bishop takes b4, and that's an annoying pin, some knight e4 later on. So you go knight b5, and then black would take. And then if you take on d7, it's a check, and queen d7, black is okay. So instead of taking on d7, you do something else. I don't quite remember, maybe castling short. And then you kind of more likely to use the c pawn, not to take the knight, but to go c7 to try to win the game this way.
If you didn't tell me about this line, I wouldn't have known about it anyway, so this is amazing.
Well, I mean, you can check world championship matches, and then you'd be surprised, but Carlsen Anand, there was a game like this. I think in the revenge, in the second match, Magnus lost with black. Exactly.
So that's 2014? 2015?
I think 15, yeah. 15 or whenever it was, yeah. So 14 was the first match, the year Magnus becomes the world champion, right? Champion,
I thought that was 13. Was it 14?
Not very good with kind of years of the recent matches. So I'm getting confused. But yeah, basically in the second match between Magnus and Anand, there was this game. And once again, I have to stress that the pawn was on h3, so it's not exactly the same, but might be not that different in reality. Shall we take a look at the other game, which we have on our live board, Tabata Bay and Wesley Saw. There
Let's take a look. We have the Nimza.
We have the Nimza, right. We have the Nimza with the usual moves, order, bishop b4, knight f3. And Wesley, interestingly, he's not one of those guys who would go for the Ragozin, right? because very often knight f3 would be answered with d5 by modern players, because Rogozin is such a solid opening, right? So you transpose into Rogozin defense, but not for Wesley. Yes, so Wesley castles, and then interestingly, white goes a3, forces black to trade, and after c5 goes g3. To be honest, this never was considered to be kind of a dangerous setup. I mean, what white does is, well, I'm not sure, I mean, how good it is, to be honest. Point being that it doesn't stop black, it seems, from developing the way black would like to, which is something along the lines of b6, bishop b7, you know, knight c6, knight a5, and eventually attacking the c4 pawn.
Would white ever play d5 early, just before this bishop b7?
No, you probably go bishop g2 first, and if bishop b7 happens, then you probably have this chance of playing d5, and if ed5, there is still a pin on this diagonal, so you can go knight h4, for instance, and then you'll take the pawn back on d5, right? And the knight, okay, on h4 it's not very good, but it's aiming towards f5, d6, you know. So that's probably a dangerous position for black. So that's what I'm looking for. So black has to find a way to attack the c4 pawn, to kind of try to surround the c4 pawn, very likely. Like knight e4, knight d6 sometimes is an idea, knight c6, knight a5 is an idea, right? But at the same time has to be careful. So maybe it's not as straightforward. Like, for instance, I was thinking knight c6, white might consider going d5, knight a5, and bishop g5. And then this pin might tend to be quite an annoying one. So if you take on c4, I wonder if something like e4 is possible, attacking the knight, like threatening e5. So something's confusing. Okay, so I do get a lesson on chess history. So indeed, Magnus has won in 2013. Okay.
And defended his title 2014, 16, 18, and 21.
We know he defended it successfully till now, right?
Yeah.
But that's really strange still. I mean, something's off. 2013. So London Candidates was 2013, and it seems, once again, it was a long time ago, almost like 9 years ago, but it left the feeling that it was in winter. And then if you have a candidates tournament in winter, you expect, you know, winter end of the year, right, 2013. So I thought, logically, the match would happen in 2014, but there was apparently the revenge match. And also Magnus jumping into the pool, but that was in India, right? So it might have been like early March or something. Yeah. You know the story, right? Like when he won the match, he jumped into the pool. Yeah,
I remember.
those photos are...
I thought they threw him into the pool, but the photos they live on.
Yeah, so no move from Wesley still, simply because, as I'm saying, g3 is a bit of a surprise. It's not, it shouldn't be such a dangerous... There shouldn't be such a dangerous setup, but one has to figure out what to do. What are black's general motifs when going bishop c3 early on in the Nimza? Here, in fact, we may say that black was sort of forced of capturing on c3, right? Or kind of invited to. Because if we are talking Nimzovich himself, like back then when upon creation on this variation, right, upon creation of this opening, he would simply take, like here, after knight f3, his idea was that, I just take, and then you have weak pawns, and that's it. So, the concept was very simple. Double pawns equals bad. And then, it's basically like white's knight f3 would receive a question mark, right? It's a bad move because it doesn't protect against bishop takes c3. Right, but I believe kind of the general guideline I sort of described here. So after G3, if we imagine that white kind of doesn't do anything quickly, and we go knight A5, and let's say white starts trying to protect the pawn, like goes queen D3, for instance, then we would go B6. After castle, we would go bishop A6. And yeah, and white is in trouble, right? So it's not necessarily the opening moves that have to look like this, because I obviously made it up, and white shouldn't be playing queen D3. But yeah, if we are talking about black's objectives, right? So it's attacking the pawn on C4. And then after knight d2, you would continue with rook to c8, possibly. Once again, threatening c takes d4 and attack the c4 pawn. Or in this specific instance, it's d5, simply because white played queen d3, so it's d5 and c4 pawn is lost. Yeah.
It's an awesome explanation about the Nemzo. I've often wanted to play it myself, and I was always told that it was a very sort of easy opening to understand compared to others, such as the Grunfeld and the King's Indian Defense. Would you say that it would be an easy opening to learn?
Not at all, because I mean, it's strange that you've got this information. I mean, like it's easier to understand than the King's Indian, because I would actually say exactly the opposite. King's Indian is harder to play because it's a worse opening, like in comparison.
Oh, wow.
Nimzo is kind of more kind of healthier, you know, if you like. You don't usually get bad pieces, while in King's Indian, after e5, d5, after the center is blocked, your bishop on g7 is not great, and so on, right? But King's Indian kind of strategic ideas are limited to, you know, with blocked center, you basically, in every single line, you're trying to arrange f7, f5, yeah? That's the King's Indian. In Nimzo, it's like it's much richer in ideas, and then much richer means that you have a few plans, and you have to understand with this specific white setup, what do you do, right? And sometimes like in this line, this plan is good, in the other line it loses, and you have to choose the other one. So I would go exactly with the opposite. Yeah, Grunfeld is a thing in itself. Yeah, Grunfeld we are not even touching. You need Peter Swidler to talk about Grunfeld, right? But yeah, comparing King's Indian and Nimzo, I would say that Nimzo is simply a bigger opening, you know. Like it's, you know, like if we are talking e4, e5, and how do we compare, say, the Scotch, which is knight f3, knight c6, d4, right? And the Ruy Lopez. And one can say, okay, comparing those two simply doesn't make any sense, because Ruy Lopez offers black such a wide choice, so that you are playing basically every single pawn structure that exists. You could have from the Ruy Lopez, right? Any single pawn structure that exists on a chessboard. While in Scotch, there are some variations, like it's not always the same structure, not always the same position, but it's much more, kind of much less variables, sort of, right? And here it's probably the same. It's probably the same. It's not that, yeah, I'm a big fan of King's Indian. I played a lot of King's Indian myself. But yeah, Nimzo is just simply a bigger opening with a lot of systems, this time for white, right? We are talking black going for the Nimzo, and then white has variety of choices, like 3-4 reliable systems for sure, plus some offbeat lines, and you really have to know how to react to any of those. Wesley doesn't seem to know, by the way. At least it takes him already quite some time to reply to.
He's going on to 10 minutes of thinking.
7g3. And answering your question about h7, h5. Nakamura thinks it's good in Naka's game.
Oh, he played it.
He played it,
well,
yeah.
He played it after some moves.
Yeah, he played.
He did play it after knight g4, h5.
It's interesting, yeah. He goes knight g4. And then he plays h5. And if I'm perfectly honest, I'm not sure if it's that good still. It's quite an interesting choice. Schach seems to be surprised a bit. I mean, knowing Schach, if it wouldn't be a new position, he would simply play a move immediately.
Right, because he would be familiar, but now the structure probably changes.
Absolutely. So what I was thinking, so Naka replies with knight g4, and that's kind of, understanding the difference, right? With pawn on h3. With the pawn on h3, it wouldn't be a move at all. So that's the difference between h4 and h3.
Is castling even a move here?
Bishop e2, h4 with white?
It's just, it feels like you're giving up a pawn.
It probably is. The thing is, I'm not sure if your intention was to castle at all after you've played h4. Yeah, so what I would be looking for is some way of going knight g5, f3, g4, like you try to play for the king side. The problem, however, as far as I understand it, knight g5 is met with e5 sooner or later. Like, I don't know how exactly do you do it. Maybe you trade everything here. You trade on a1, just to decrease the number of pieces, and then eventually you go e5. And that's your key idea, with knight being on g4, knight being on d7.
Yeah. Because there's no h3 to kick the knight out of the square g4.
Yeah. So the knight on g4 is interestingly stable, and like any sort of tactic you can think of, black probably would have his own opinion. Like on bishop g4, this looks very, very interesting. Like, let's take the other bishop, then let's take on g5, and so on. So that's immediately very sharp position. But that's what I would be looking at. Castle short, maybe, but what's, let's say, what do we, maybe we want g3, king g2, something slowish. Yeah. We are not that bothered, I believe, with this pawn capture, or maybe we are. I mean, I don't know. Because you always have to watch out for these b5 ideas. b5 pawn takes c6, but maybe b5 just bishop b7, and maybe black is fine. Here you can try f3 in some way, like f3, and I'm really hoping for knight back to f6, and then
because the queen looks like it's getting trapped.
The queen is almost getting trapped. It's weird though, because you're not really trapping it, right?
You can't find a way. Maybe g3, rook f2.
But rook h. So you're threatening rook h2, bishop d3. Yeah, okay. For instance, this. And then e5 happens, so that queen can run away to e6, and that's once again some very unbalanced position, but maybe this one is actually good for white, yeah? I'll take, the knight will have to go, I'll go here, the queen will have to go, and I'll take on h5. Yeah, so that's obviously spot-on analysis with zero mistakes.
He's moving the pieces on the ceiling, it seems.
Yeah, no, but seriously, castle is possible, but then till the end of the game, you'll have to watch out for this h4 pawn being under black's attack.
Oh, wow. And we were sort of discussing, the chances of Nakamura playing in the candidates, since there was some chatter, and I think he had mentioned in one of the interviews in the first leg of the Grand Prix that he was even thinking about giving up his spot for Ding Liren if he were to make it. And I know in the interview yesterday, he cleared things up, because that was one of the main questions that were asked by the interviewer. So, he's no longer considering giving up his spot that he's earned in the candidates. And I think there was a quote as well. I have the quote here somewhere. So it says, I think that I've played my way into it. The only person who I thought deserved a spot would have been Ding Liren, but he's busy playing games every day in China. So he's going to qualify anyway. So I'll be playing.
Okay.
So it looks like he will be playing in the candidates after all.
Yeah. Isn't Wesley American? Yes, he is. But who stated otherwise?
There's some cheer for Wesley also being originally from the Philippines.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, it's like
no,
the moment Aronian switches federation, does he lose all the Armenian supporters? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So same is the case with Wesley, right?
Yeah, I think it's just taken out of context. I'm not too sure who's forwarding the messages
Yeah.
onto the stream. It's not me.
White is a bit better since the piece is active. Which piece and what position are we referring to? I mean, if this one, it's once again, I'm afraid we cannot really, for this position, Mamedyarov against Nakamura, we cannot really judge this by just comparing, space advantages, pieces, activities, and so on and so on. Yes, like if everything stabilizes, if White makes 5 moves promising not to attack anything on Black's side, if Black plays 5 moves promising not to attack anything on White's side, yeah, White is better. So we could put it in such a way that kind of strategically, with static factors, which is, the space advantage, first of all, like White having the pawn on c5. Yes, White is better, but it doesn't mean anything because, that's why it's so important to play the opening right, because it's a lot of stuff getting defined early, and Black obviously will be looking for the way to, to play e5 and just unbalance the situation as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So let's just take a look if there were any moves made.
No.
Oh yes, on the Tabatabai
on
Wesley
the other
So
board.
game. Yeah, the d5 was played. d5 was played. Yeah,
No, but first let's not forget. First, it was on Black to play b6, bishop g2, bishop b7.
yes.
So it was Wesley to invite d5. Yeah, of course. Like the moment it was played, it was kind of obvious that if White has any hopes, it has to be with d5. It has to be with d5. Yeah, d5 played. And I wonder what you do with Black, by the way, because it's not necessarily that you are taking on d5 and going for this line. Might as well do something else. It's like, what's something else though? Knight e4 looks like a recipe for a disaster, right? Like knight e4. My point was like you go knight e4 and potentially try to play f5 kind of to support the knight on e4. But the key factor is the knight on b8, which is still not in the game. Still not in the game. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, I mean, by the time Wesley spends, honestly. Like, he spent quite some time going for b6, bishop b7, and yet he's surprised after d5. d5, yeah, I'm being pretty serious. Like, d5 is the only move that I would be looking at with White. There is no other move, no, really. Like, the real point being that after castle, like if White castles, for instance, right, the move is bishop to e4. The move is bishop to e4, so now your d5 doesn't make any sense, right? Because like the bishop is already out, so you are not blocking the bishop. And the bishop stays there on this long diagonal for as much time as needed to be traded for the g2 bishop. And so you go bishop e4, your next move is knight c6, your next move is knight a5. So you start attacking White's c4 pawn. And White seemingly has no counterplay whatsoever. Like you probably go bishop g5 with White, but then after h6, this combo of, having g3, bishop g2 played and going to g5 with the bishop, then after h6 you have to decide. You can't really go to h4, so or rather before going to g5, you have to be ready to trade on f6. So bishop f6, queen f6, and okay, something like this, in fact, is playable. Knight e5, trade here, Black's gonna go d6, you probably go back, I wanna say. Yeah, you probably go back, maybe you go to g4, e3, and then d5, yeah, but probably you just go back, knight c6. But Black has no problem whatsoever here. Might be better, might not be better, but yeah, no problem at all. Rook c8, knight a5, once again, c4 is the target. So therefore, after after bishop b7, I would only look at d5 and try to make it work, and apparently it works. Knight h4 or knight g5, whatnot. I mean, I'm not really sure. Knight g5 might be a move in some cases. And then you would think black is very clever with knight e4, for instance, right? So if I take the d pawn takes and black is just a pawn up, but in this case white actually captures on d5. And now knight c3 loses to queen c2, attacking the knight and the h7 pawn. And knight g5, knight g5 there is h4 and the knight is trapped. And wait a second. It's a cool story, bro. There is knight e6.
Because of g2.
Yeah, because g2 is hanging. Yeah, there is knight e6, and
it's so crazy in the current position. Oh, sorry. I was taking a look at the evaluation as well, and like the current position, there's no actual. I mean, I would naturally just take on d5, but for me, it's like the evaluation is no human would play a move like, I don't know, queen e7. Yeah.
Queen e7.
I don't see the reason behind it.
Queen e7, sort of possible. I think what you want to do is, like in case of knight h4, for instance, you probably play d6 so that the bishop is protected. I think that's kind of the key, because d takes e6. If you capture on g2, you have to be ready to sacrifice for this. You have to be ready for an intermediate e takes f7, which is not necessarily bad for black, by the way. There is no guarantee that it's bad. Yeah, I mean, here, for instance, you can take on f7 and then c4. But even if you are forced to take with the rook, then very often c4 would be too weak, right? So some knight c6, knight a5, those two files are open for black rooks, like rook e8, so black might as well have very decent compensation, I mean, and often has. Yeah, but since after d6 the bishop is protected, d6 is no longer a problem, you can just take with the pawn. So that's perhaps an explanation about queen e7. But why would you start with queen e7 over d7, d6? That's a big question. Because I would, if anything, I would start with d6, kind of planning for e5, and if I need queen e7, I'll play queen e7 later. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is also a possibility, to take on d5 and after knight h4 to do something like bishop a6, which forces white to capture with the pawn, right, pretty much, otherwise bishop takes c4. I don't think bishop d5 makes any sense. Knight takes,
right,
and then pawn takes, it's d6. Yeah, queen takes, it's knight c6, so white doesn't win any material. So therefore, after bishop a6, you probably take with the pawn, and then black would play something along the lines of d6, knight to d7, you know, rook e8 in the right moment. Maybe even start with rook e8, kind of targeting e2 first. Maybe forcing white to play an awkward move like bishop f3, and then you go d6. Castles, you go knight d7, and so on. Yeah, so it's not such a terrible position. You can still play it, of course.
Would you say that this position is roughly equal, or to one side?
It's, you know, equal as in with mutual chances, right? It's not equal the way sort of the, you know, rook e1 in Berlin is equal when everything is similar, right? So here there are kind of pros and cons to any side's position. So black structure is more flexible even if he trades on d5. White has pair of bishops, white has a bit of space advantage with the d5 pawn. Is chess a science or an art or a sport? I may add to this question, right? So that's an old debate, you know. Whose quote that was? I mean, it's an art and
science.
Science and sport, kind of the mixture.
It's all of them.
It's mixture, right? But I don't quite remember. I think it was about. I don't remember the country, honestly, but the young international master being asked by a sports minister, is chess an art, a science, a sport? It was an art sport. Yeah, okay. There were three choices. A minister. Imagine, Jesse, you go to a sports minister of South Africa, and he's asking, or he or she asking yourself, what's chess? Is it an art? Is it a sport? Is it a waste of time? Because
chess is life.
Chess is life. Okay, that works. No, but in this anecdote I'm trying to recall, it goes about a young international master who was looking for support from the government or whatever, and he goes to a sports minister, and being asked this question, he comes up with a beautiful answer. It was like someone, I don't recall, regrettably, the player he mentions as an idol, but let's say it was Mikhail Tal. So he says, like, Mikhail Tal, when he is playing, it's an art. When I'm playing, it's a sport. And if you'd be playing chess, he says to the minister, that'd be a waste of time. So, as simple as that. It's brutal, yeah, but don't ask these kind of questions, right? Yeah, and if I'm trying to be a little bit more serious, nowadays it's not a lot of art left, I'm afraid. It's not a lot of art left. It's more of a sport and science, like on a very high level. When we are talking high-level chess, it's science when you're preparing at home, right? Because you really kind of try to study every little detail of the opening and of the game in general. And then it's a sport when two people competing. And regrettably...
What about the art?
The art? But what's art? I mean, art, it used to be when you come up with kind of a new move on move 6, and we are both on our own, so we are kind of creating a piece of something.
Well, I guess at club level it'll always be an art.
Yeah.
But then at high level, maybe they're just using a ruler.
You know...
for their art pieces.
Shall we consider it to be an art on a club? Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah, it's not very often that you are satisfied with the piece of art you've kind of produced during the game, right? But yeah, well, why not? It's a form of art, yeah.
Oh, wow. So there's a Morphy quote. So Paul Morphy says, the ability to play chess is the sign of a gentleman. The ability to play chess well is the sign of a wasted life.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I totally support this idea.
Yeah.
No, I mean, seriously, I shouldn't be saying this on an official broadcast of a high-profile event. But yeah, when we are talking kids being sometimes forced into playing chess by their parents, that's a sad picture.
Yeah.
You know, so it's only if if you have the love for the game, right, and your objective is to play better moves, like play this game better, and not like I will become the world champion, I'll become this, I'll become that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Wesley So said in the interview yesterday something along the lines of, for young players wanting to become chess professionals, it's not going to be an easy life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they should know that from a young age. So, I don't know. I still want to think of it as some magic going on the chessboard. So, don't take away my dreams.
You're right, but one should not have an illusion, right? It's the balance. Yeah, I mean, it can be a wonderful life, but once again, I mean, if you like all in on playing chess and you are 10 years of age, it's a little bit strange.
Yeah. It's an art to get along with one's faults, says chat.
Are we sure it's a quote from Paul Morphy? Because recently there have been an awful lot of fake quotes, right? I mean, on the internet. The internet is full of like great quotes of famous people that never said anything like it.
Oh, wow.
No, but really, I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but yeah, people tend to make up quotes as well.
Yeah, they say that 64% of all statistics are made up. So
64 only.
Yeah.
In Soviets, where obviously, anything that had any touch with the statistics, like, I don't know, the GDP of Soviet Union, any sort of election was obviously made up, right? And they used to have a saying, like, there is like 3 types of lies, like lies, naughty lies, and Soviet statistics. Mm-hmm. So it's like
this is actually
on a scale,
very well,
you know.
Yeah. We have a chess streamer in chat saying, don't you think it's better conditions for chess professionals these days than it has been in the past? There are many more ways to vary your way of being a chess professional with teaching, books and courses, streaming, etc. Surely there are many ways of sort of taking chess and making it your life and making away with life. With chess.
Yeah,
probably.
but then to what extent are we stretching the term chess professional? Because someone who makes, physically makes the pieces, his job is associated with chess. And do we call him chess professional as well?
Yes,
you know, it's
a craftsman who probably, I don't know, that's interesting.
Yeah, so what I mean, I think, it is correct to kind of broaden it up, the term, right? And teachers and coaches over internet have to be considered chess professional. But the original point when we were saying chess professional, it obviously meant the players who are earning money playing in the tournaments, right? And for that, I don't think it kind of is. It kind of is a better life for maybe 20 people in the world, right? And because if you'd ask someone, I don't like the term, but an average grandmaster, right? I mean, someone with, like, say, around 2,600, 25, 50, 2,600. I don't think their life kind of improved that much. But that's a rough argument, and I don't know why shall we have it on stream. Simply because Wesley doesn't want to make a move. I think that's the reason why.
Well, Wesley's thinking time is going on 19 minutes.
Mamyarov, though, makes a move. Mamyarov makes a move, and
yes,
he went
he
b5. And shouldn't we take a look at?
We shall. Let's
shouldn't we take a look at Mamyarov's game and Hikaru's game? Looks like Hikaru is going to lose, and there were also mentions of Mamyarov being a better player. That's tough to estimate. What does it mean, better player, once again? What does it mean to be a better player? I mean, in this case, it's like Magnus and me. Magnus is a better player because it's obvious to everyone, right? Like Mamyarov
but of
and Nakamura.
two players of the same strength, I would say the better player is the one who is more of a sportsman or has better sportsmanship.
Yeah, but here, are we sure it's Mamyarov? Are we agreeing with kind of a chat statement? No, not necessarily. I mean,
not necessarily,
I wouldn't be able to tell who's the better player. And then, once again, even if one is the better player, it doesn't matter as long as the other one plays better in this specific tournament, right? So it's all going to be decided on the board today or in tomorrow's tiebreak. And you may kind of claim that you're a better player, but if you can't win in this tournament, I don't care. Okay, so b5 was played. Obviously, as I mentioned already, this looks very, very grim for black. c6, so this time you're not losing immediately, right? The knight can go to f6, but then after knight b5, white's positional advantage is overwhelming. Like the c-pawn stays, it blocks the bishop from entering the game, right? It really restricts black's possibilities. So you it's almost impossible to capture on b5. Therefore, bishop b7 was played, and bishop b7 is a standard reaction. So you want to capture on c6 with the bishop if white takes. White, having played b5, he basically enters a very narrow path, because now either he has something here in this position, and something in this position could be along the lines of, once again, knight g5 and trying to go for a kingside attack while black is sort of distracted a bit with this b5, c5 pawns. Or otherwise, you can't keep the pawn on c5, right? So you'll have to trade on c6, trade on b6, which is, pardon me, but quite boring. It simplifies the position a lot. Black no longer has any weaknesses left on the queen side, and therefore black, I believe, should be fine. However, looking at it a little bit closer, I'm thinking, could it be that the fact that black played, kind of committed to this knight g4 and h5 game, could it be that it's a little bit awkward for black? Because now I realize, for instance, if you take with the knight on b6, some sort of knight e5 might happen, and then you are forced to trade, bishop takes, and maybe you're not on time kind of, you know, tactically. So it's good and all, you've traded the queen side, but maybe the fact that h5's hanging, you know, maybe it doesn't let you keep up with white's threats. So who knows? b5, bishop b7, Shark is back to calculations. And there was one more question that, or rather a contribution to this Naka versus Shark debate that I've missed and didn't read. I hope it's coming back to the screen.
Yeah, there were a lot of comments made after our discussion, I think.
Yeah, did Wesley...
Oh, there is a question about, or directed to you. Miro, what were your expectations before becoming a Grandmaster?
What were my expectations in terms of chess, you mean? A kind of chess career?
Probably, what did you expect of yourself? Yeah.
To become a world champion, obviously. I mean, why would you play chess not kind of dreaming of... Yeah, I mean, at some point, I think that was when I hit the wall of reality. Like I became a Grandmaster and realized that there is a certain kind of ceiling to what I can achieve. And or maybe a couple of years after I've played as a Grandmaster. And interestingly, I was progressing, like in terms of rating and so on. But that at some point, like meeting with the best guys, I've realized that yeah, I mean, I'm not that bad, but there is something missing. And yeah, but on my way becoming a Grandmaster, yeah, I was just learning the game and you know, perhaps didn't have like clear goals, but I was always kind of dreaming big or looking at big things to happen.
Okay.
Better play is the one with the higher rating, yeah, or this, or this.
Yeah. This is a pretty good life, I'd say.
But then why have chess tournaments? I mean, if you already know the name of the better player.
Well, upsets exist, I guess. Well, no, it's very hard. I mean, I think the reason why I have the engine up for myself, I don't think Miro is at all looking at the engine, but rather comments of the software. But I mean, for me, it's easier to be guided by the engine, and of course, what Miro is saying, it helps me a lot since Miro is a lot better than me. But yeah, it's very difficult for the players, of course.
Castles, yeah. Well, Wesley reacted to White's setup exactly in the way that we've talked he would. So e6 and queen to e7. I'm a little bit, honestly, a little bit puzzled here. What's his plan after knight h4? Because if he was planning to take on d5, then I would probably go with this other line that I was looking at, like see, e takes early and then after knight h4 to go bishop a6, because bishop on b7, kind of keeping the bishop on b7, only makes sense if you're planning to kind of win the d5 pawn, if you're sure that you'd win the d5 pawn and all right, knight h4 and knight to d7. No, like really strange setup. Knight d7. I want to say Amin might get a chance, because those positions, they are very tricky. They are very tricky. And also, I'm not seeing the clock because we switched to the other game, but I think Tabata Bay has quite some advantage on the clock as well, right? Some half an hour or so.
At the moment, Tabata Bay has 1 hour 30.
Yeah.
1 minute. And Wesley So has 52 minutes.
Yeah, I see it now.
He actually, I'm trying to see the last move, how much time he spent. I think it was 23 minutes.
23 minutes on this knight d7.
I think it was d6.
It's not the last move, Jesse. Also, a couple of moves played after that.
I need to refresh.
Queen e7
as well.
and knight b to d7. So knight b d7 was the last move.
Yes.
So I'm really not sure.
No, actually, it says that he spent 23 minutes finding d6, and then the last move was 9 seconds that he spent on knight b d7. Because I think it was castles, queen e7, knight h4.
Yeah. So knight d7 he had kind of ready, but before that he was spending time trying to find the best setup, kind of. Amin and So gonna be a tough battle. Yeah, exactly. There was also an interesting suggestion by an engine to go e4 right here, which honestly might have been very interesting. So, well, you basically just want to, grab the center, maybe even play e5 someday. So it's almost sure. That black has to capture on e4. But then rook e1 happens. And ed5, cd5 is extremely dangerous, probably just bad because of this spin. So after rook e1, well, I don't know. I mean, f5 looks scary. It might work, but looks scary. So very likely you are back to f6. And then, that's an awkward position for black, up to the point that it's some sort of bishop, bishop g5 might work. Bishop g5, and when I'm saying might work, I mean that after h6, white's not trading, but going bishop h4. I mean, that was the plan, yes. So like g5, knight g5.
Takes.
Maybe there is, but that's kind of a logical...
And then maybe queen.
Logical follow-up to what white was doing previously.
Yeah.
So you try to use your lead in development, right? Black still can't play knight d7 because then you take.
It's taking.
Yeah, bishop g2, you take on d7 intermediate. Yeah, and you probably lose the game as well because f6 is dropping and everything falls apart.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. But even the move he played, knight h4, knight d7, like now white has to look for the exact setup, because if he is a little bit naive and pushes e4 quickly, I think black will target the c4 pawn, possibly with knight e5 or whatnot, bishop a6. Bishop a6, queen a4. I keep forgetting there is queen a4 all the time, since you've played knight to d7, yeah. So maybe knight e5 to start with, and then see what exactly white does. And then God knows, I mean, sometimes it'd be just f4, e5, break in the center, like break everything, sacrifice all the pieces, checkmate. So at the very least, if you're...
You make it sound so easy. I wish chess was that easy.
Yeah. No, I mean, the part of this list is kind of easily achievable. Sacrifice all the pieces part. The checkmate is not guaranteed, right?
No, I'm very good at sacrificing all my pieces.
What I mean, like, if you're a Tabata Bay fan, you love to see it simply because, I mean, it's not very often that you get a playable position against Wesley So. I mean, sometimes it would be just, you know, the guy wants a draw and he plays something very solid, symmetrical, and you have no idea where to complicate, let's say. At least here, it's absolutely clear the conflict's on the board, right?
Westy actually lost a game in the round robin. Was it against Predke? I can't remember. I'm sure he lost. Did he not lose a game?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'd have to go check. Because I think he lost one and then he won as well against the same opponent. But okay, I'll go check. Maybe it was some draws.
No, wait, Predke was in the other group.
Oh yes, he was. I must be thinking of someone else. I need to go check. But yeah, as we're taking a look. Let's see. There we go.
Or maybe I'm confusing stuff. No, maybe you're right. Yeah, wait a second. You're absolutely right. He was in the same group with Predke. MVL, Shankland, yeah, that was the group, right? You're right, Jesse. I'm just not sure if he lost the game. I think MVL lost the game and then won the game against Predke. Wesley, I think he won one game and made like a bunch of draws.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on my way to go see.
Mamedyarov actually played an interesting move. C takes b6, queen takes b6. Now, you have options with white. You have options with white.
What do you think white would do in this position?
I mean, you can still kind of trade on c6 or do something else. I mean, the line I was looking at, it's an interesting line starting with knight a4. Then it doesn't matter where the queen goes, is it d8 or a7, and maybe I'll go to d8. I was planning to play b6. And the point here is that white really wants this, really wants to put the bishop on c7. It will be really hard to get rid of this bishop. So black is almost forced to accept the pawn sacrifice. Knight takes b6, we trade on b6, then white plays rook to b1, attacking the queen, and the only square for the queen is on a7, right? Otherwise you lose the b7 bishop. And this seems to be the perfect moment for white to start the kingside attack when the queen is stuck on a7 for quite some time. So now you go, say, knight e5 or knight g5 for this matter. I mean, I'm not sure. Right, attack the g4 knight, then some queen c2 possible, and so on and so on. So that looks promising. I mean, that's one of the things to try with white. But no, Mamedyarov castles short, which is much more reasonable on one thing. You're not sacrificing anything, but far less challenging at the same time. Because now black should be able to just capture on b5 and then, I mean, a few careful moves will be needed, but perhaps we'll find the equality.
Yeah.
There is a bold alternative to play c5, so kind of leaving white with potentially a defended passed pawn on, you know, on b5. But same knight a4 might be annoying. Knight a4, queen wherever it goes, a7, let's say, and then white captures here, and you'll have to take with the bishop, because there is a little oopsie if you take with the knight, because b6 traps the queen. So yeah, maybe queen d8 then, so then at least you are able to capture on c5 with the knight, but that's very risky. I don't think c5 is something I would recommend. And maybe Naka is in a bit of a trouble. Maybe Naka is in a bit of a trouble. Yeah, probably he'll have to take, and then say bishop takes, bishop c6, and rook b1. Maybe it's an annoying position. Maybe I tend to underestimate how unpleasant this is. Not sure if rook b1 because bishop a3 might be possible. So basically, the idea is that I'm switching the play to the queen side, and I'm arguing that the knight on g4 cannot return in time, right? So it's very simplistic. There is no like big weaknesses on the queen side, and it might be that black is just okay with the pieces he has. But yeah, but there is slight inconvenience, like having this knight on g4 and it's not coming back kind of anytime soon. So yeah, we shall see.
Indeed.
There was a mention in the chat was there was the heart rate of 62. I would fall asleep. I'm falling asleep as well. Yeah, I mean, and believe me, I have much higher heart rate. So it's either the technology is not perfect or the players are really calm.
Yeah, I'd like to believe the former, and that the technology is not perfect and that their heart rates are going crazy. Yes.
Right.
No, you are right about that, I believe. Wesley So did end on 3.5 with no loss inside. So he had one game. He won the game against Maxim and drew the rest of them. So
yeah. Okay, so turn for Hikaru to think in the opening. Turn for finally first time where Tabatabai starts to spend time in the opening after Wesley's knight b to d7.
yeah.
Right. So chat, a special request for you. Keep us entertained. That's only 2 games left. And what we're gonna be doing when it'll be the final and it'll be only 1 game. Yeah. So more questions.
We'll have to take
more questions better.
Increasing number of breaks.
No, we'll be talking chat's questions. So have couple of announcements. Like one is very easy. You could spotted it yourself. 25% off Arena subscription with the promo code VIDIT. And if you still find it to be kind of excessively expensive, even with the 25% off, you are welcome to join the tournament, which is tomorrow 3 p.m. I believe. 3 p.m. UTC or GMT, London time, on FIDE Online Arena, and then you can win 5 free memberships are at stake, and if you win the tournament, you win a very nice pocket chess set.
Yeah, we have a nice Sparta reference. Are you not entertained? Wonderful.
Hikaru just plays rook f to c8. Not too hasty to trade on b5, but that once again brings back the possibility for white to go knight a4 and go for this pawn sacrifice that I've mentioned. So I'm curious to see if Mamedyarov goes for it, because still, if they end up having something like this on the board, like queen goes b6, bishop c7 is still a very annoying threat. It's almost kind of wins in exchange. You can't really tolerate the bishop on c7, so you'll have to take. And if you capture the knight, then we inevitably end up with the queen on a7. And even with white king being castled, there is still kind of inequality of the number of pieces on the king side, right? And something like knight g5 on, once again, knight e5 might start a very dangerous attack for white, simply because black is sort of too far. I'm not sure on that by any means, but it does look like an interesting way to continue. Does Miro play video games? Brilliant question. I mean, I used to play Hearthstone, but like lately trying to avoid, not even like trying to avoid, it doesn't kind of turn me off anymore.
Oh wow, so it doesn't interest you.
Yeah. Hearthstone
Okay.
specifically, because it kind of, I don't like the route the game has taken. I mean, in the development, it's getting overly complicated and also like too impacted by randomness. And then to pick up anything else, come on, like I feel it's a little bit not kind of too late, but it'd be strange, really. So
Not at all. I mean, I only started playing video games about 2 years ago, so there you go.
Yep. Good morning, guys. In case of a tie, will the tiebreak be played today? No, it is tomorrow. It's kind of a separated day for the tiebreaks. Yeah. Separated day for the tiebreaks. Well, and there is a reason. There is a very good reason why. Because if it's 2 draws, it's sort of okay, right? But if you won game 1 and lost game 2, you are at a psychological disadvantage most of the time, right? Because you have to play after you've lost the game. So you are kind of, upset to say the very least, right? Sometimes would be kicking yourself. And
Yeah. So, Miro, shall we take a short break?
yeah, wouldn't mind it. Wouldn't mind it. I think we've passed the kind of fast opening stage, right? Now it's clear it's still sort of between the opening and the middle game, but this is usually the phase where a lot of time is taken on each and single move, and that's why we won't kind of miss much if we go for some 10 minutes break and then return with the semifinals.
All right.
Hi, I'm Vidit Gujarati. I'm 27 years old, an international chess grandmaster from India. I'm also the brand ambassador for FIDE Online Arena. It's a place where you can play for online rating and online titles which can be recognized by FIDE officially. I feel chess is a sport which can be definitely played online, which other sports don't enjoy the luxury of. And the most important thing is that you can play from the comfort of your home, be it any time, against strong players all around the globe. And since the past 2 years, we have seen a boom in online chess. And be it for professional players or for people who have just started, I think it provides a great opportunity. In the next few months, I'll be streaming and playing games on the FIDE Online Arena. So be a part of it, and who knows, maybe we'll end up playing a game with each other. See you soon on the FIDE Online Arena.
We are back. We are back with the semi-finals. Games, I think, getting sharper a little bit. For instance, this one, Mamedyarov and Nakamura. Mamedyarov just went knight g5 and Naka replied with knight f8. So this allows white to capture a pawn on g4 if he wants it. Right? So
Okay.
bishop takes g4, I presume he's answered with pawn takes. And the thing is, I mean, I was wondering at first, like, what happens after this? Yeah, queen g4. But apparently, black will reply with some sort of queen b2, where it's quite awkward to, you know, to guard the knight on c3 or move it away. So
You can't just play knight e2?
you
maybe?
can, yeah, but
Oh, but then there's maybe
yeah,
bishop,
like bishop,
but then rook
bishop
e1.
b5, rook e1, and it starts starts being quite sharp here. Like for instance, some tactical tricks like this: bishop takes a3, and what do you do then? It's like rook a b1 seems to win a piece, right? The b5 bishop is hanging. But then queen d2, and I'm not convinced it doesn't work for black. So queen d2 attacks the e1 rook. If knight f3, black has bishop e2, so various pins and stuff. Yeah, you know, strangely it might work. And if not this, then just queen b2, bishop a3. So I think it is anyway connected with this bishop a3 trick. Let's not forget. Yeah, let's not forget there is also bishop d7, which is much trickier. So the knight is hanging on c3, right? And if rook c8, there is possibly e5 in some way.
I can imagine how annoying this knight on f8 must be for white.
Yeah.
Especially having all these pieces on the king's side. This knight f8 actually guards a lot of squares.
Yeah, knight f8, yeah, that's really one of the most solid setups, like if we are talking guarding the king, yeah, so protects h7, and it's really, really hard to get there. Really hard to get there. So I'm wondering if white shouldn't really take the pawn but do something else. Well, for something else, it's better be quick because black is getting ready for f7, f6 to kick the knight away. Question to you, Jesse. Favorite chess YouTuber?
Well, actually, there was one. There was a Daily Dose of Chess, actually. Was one. But he's inactive now. He's doing some editing for some other chess streamers at the moment. But surprisingly, I'm not watching too many chess YouTubers. Maybe a Gambit.
Yeah, but I think that's exactly the case. Once you've crossed the line of becoming content creator, you consume much less of a content from the others because you're busy.
That's true,
you're busy kind of creating your own thing.
Exactly, but I also think that consuming content has become a lot less about the enjoyment of it, but rather absorbing maybe techniques or different ideas
exactly
from them.
Kind of. So you kind of try to pick the trend, maybe some features, but you're no longer kind of trying to learn from YouTube videos the chess thing. Yeah,
Right.
I would agree with this. Yeah, so in my case, I hardly watched any chess YouTube, to be honest. I mean, I watched some Twitch, right, and I've at some point was streaming a bit, but but it's hard to say. So like for the beginners, I would still go with the obvious choices. Like Levy is pretty good in my opinion. Like if you're only picking up chess, he might be like way too pushy sometimes. Like there's somewhat aggressive, somewhat overhyped, but still solid content in my opinion.
And consistent too. I think consistency is actually more important than a lot of other aspects these days.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, especially for YouTube, right? So it's not that you've created one genius video and then we as the subscribers have to wait for half a year, right? For the other one. Yeah, it's probably when you are consistent. So you make them coming like once a week. That's already quite cool.
Yeah. But consistency at that level, I mean, is really difficult, especially for someone who not only has maybe YouTube to focus on, but has like Twitch streaming and maybe even a full-time job. That's very difficult to balance.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, with us seemingly kind of maybe not defeating COVID, but kind of getting rid of restrictions and so on, and life is sort of turning back to normal, or at least it would seem so. Will it kind of fade a little bit, the popularity of streaming and YouTube and so, or it came there and it's gonna stay there?
I think that it will definitely stay. Maybe it won't have that hype that it had in the beginning of the chess boom. I think that a lot of people are working on projects to sort of keep that hype of chess or online chess alive. And I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, but content is there. I mean, there's an avenue for content always.
Yeah, so. Because, when it's only started and then people got excited about chess is the next big esports thingy. And they tend to kind of forget or ignore on purpose that an average lifespan of an esport in any game is like 8 years or 6 years, something. If it's a big game, if it's not like something that basically half a year and then it's gone, right? Because some other auto battler got a new patch or of some sort.
Yeah.
So once again, I mean, I understand I'm a little bit conservative, but I would, clearly distinguish the difference between that's chess, a royal game, and that's a chess esports, right?
Well, I mean, it's as much about the game as it is about the players. So if there's something mysterious about the game that people continue to sort of search new things about, and I mean, that's chess. But when it comes to the players, there are new and up and coming players all the time, and that's what the hype of chess is about. Maybe you play chess because of your favorite player, or maybe you play chess because of your favorite streamer, and so on. So I think it's got to do with the game and the players of that game. So again, about like Formula One, there's new drivers almost. Okay, the contracts expire and new drivers come in, and you sort of latch onto the personality of the driver, and you're like, okay, I'm into this sport because of this person, right? So
yeah, fair enough. Bishop to d3 is what Mamedyarov plays, and this is the move that I honestly haven't considered at all, because he obviously has spotted some way of developing White's initiative, but I'm not sure what that way is, to be honest. Because for the time being, it's not a threat, right? Anything on h7 is not a threat. F3, he could have played F3 with the bishop on e2. So it's perhaps just a move to try to achieve some sort of harmonious setup. So maybe the knight goes to e2, g3 later. So the knight on c3, which was hanging in some lines, maybe it goes to g3 now. So he's trying to amass as many pieces on the queen side, on the king side, as possible, and then later on we'll try to attack. Yeah. It's interesting to once again the reminder that I do occasionally look at the engine suggestions after the moves played, right? And here, once again, I'm not sure about how strong the engine is, but it is very keen on playing a4 with the pawn. So when it was black to move, it was suggesting that after a4 it would be equal, while after knight f8 it would be better for white because white could have played a4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it finds it kind of the key move, interestingly. So for white, I can kind of really relate to this, right? So a4 and then put the knight on b5. In case bishop b4, you just put the knight on b5 and you say, yeah, the queen side is sort of blocked. And on the king side, it is where my attack's happening. Yeah, so later on still, like f3, g4 one day. So after bishop d3, I wonder if it wants a4 for black once again.
Yeah, I'm also wondering. Wait, let me check. A4 is one of the top moves, actually. But before, I also saw a recommendation. That's why when you mentioned white playing a4, I was like, this looks familiar. It's probably something I saw as well. And by I mean I looked at the engine.
Yeah, well, so the thing
I did not see
here
it.
is perhaps that nobody, in reality, none of the players wants to hurry up with f7, f6 for black or f2, f3 for white. So it'd be quite a bit of maneuvering, and then only sort of later on, white might go for f3.
And we're seeing a move by Armin in the other game as well.
Yeah, we shall see. There is still, I keep forgetting, there is still this idea of going rook b1, knight b5 one day, exchanging the bishop. Yeah, but for this, why would you need bishop d3? Yeah, bishop d3 is somewhat mysterious, really. I mean, unless it's played with knight e2 idea, as I've mentioned.
Do you think he has some ideas of playing something along the lines of bishop back, queen d3, this sort of general setup?
But bishop back, what square?
Yeah, but
like
where?
Bishop b1
I really don't know.
looks strange. Bishop c2, like having the bishop on the c file when it's in the scope of
It's
the
a little bit clogged already.
It's probably the e2 square what he wants. So I think it's connected with this knight e2, knight g3 idea.
Okay. Right, so bishop e8 was played.
Bishop e8 is already played, yeah?
Well, just right now.
Because I got it now. Bishop e8, guards f7. Also, in case f6 is played later on, the bishop conveniently guards h5. So bishop e8 is understandable. Let's see what Chuck comes up with.
Yeah, and chat mentions Mamedyarov is an extremely strong attacker. If Hikaru can weather the storm in the middle game, he can draw or win.
Yeah, that's correct.
And a very vague question, but probably worth asking to the casters. What was your very first memorable moment in chess?
Memorable moment in chess. Long time ago, so I'm not quite sure. I mean, well, one of the first perhaps was my first tournament abroad, right? So kind of going to the other country, and then back then it was, I mean, pardon me, but I'm old, I've already stated this. It was 1995, and back then kind of leaving the country was the bigger thing than playing a chess tournament, right? So kind of going somewhere abroad, period. I mean, if I would go for vacation, it would be a big thing to me. And I was like 17 years old, maybe not yet 17 years old. Right, and to my surprise, I've won the tournament, so kind of joined first, and that was the kick that gave me an illusion I could play chess. So yeah, maybe the life would have been different if not this tournament. Yeah, no, but if
That's amazing.
Yeah, but really, but looking at or thinking of the first chess impressions, it might have been like really early something. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that answer. Yeah. I would also say that one of my first sort of trips abroad to play a chess tournament was the most memorable, and it was also my first time abroad. So it was my first time playing chess in another country, but also going to another country.
Yeah. So same for me. Yeah. And how many times, Jesse? I mean, that's the thing with us chess players, that we say about like going abroad, but most of the time it would be this or other way chess related, right?
Yeah.
So
I've only ever traveled abroad for chess.
Oh, really, right? So
yeah, I've never been on holiday.
With me, I've been on holiday, but it's like really limited. So I've stopped counting when my list of visited countries reached 50, let's say. And,
oh, wow. Okay.
Like if I would kind of make a separate list of countries I went on holiday, it's less than 5 still. Funny enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Goodness me. Yeah, that's really cool that you've played chess in more than 50 countries. I mean, I'm just about to reach 20, so not even half of that. Yeah, hopefully I can add some more soon.
Yeah, but there are record holders in chess world. I think Nigel Short is like.
I heard he's visited almost every single country in the world.
Getting closer and closer to the entire list.
Goodness me. I can't imagine that. There's some countries I would like to keep off of my list, I guess. Probably some countries in Africa and probably some in South America, but that's only from what I've read and what I've experienced in sort of neighboring countries as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Naka looks bored when he plays classic. I'm afraid by that point quite a lot of people look bored when they play classic. No, strangely, it's like with the amount of preparation nowadays, it's almost like it turned into coming back to this art discussion. Like imagine spending 5 hours in preparation before the game, or I don't know, whatever, 4 hours, and then playing the game 6 hours long. How much of an art is that? So I'm afraid that they're kind of getting worn out, strangely, right? So that's why, like, nobody wants to talk this, but like when it's rapid, I think they're much happier overall, strangely. So.
Yeah,
of course it's
and they're not having to notate. So.
Yeah. No, seriously, like World Championship match is about the only event where I can see this long time control justified. Well, maybe kind of the candidates and the World Championship match, but the kind of the lower, is the profile of the tournament, the shorter the time control should be, which is only, once again, I'm coming back to my snooker knowledge, and then the longest matches you have in the World Championship, right? And something like, I don't know, an average tournament would be to what, like best out of 9 frames maybe? So you win 5 frames, you win, and then the World Championship final, and I'm not sure, it's probably 35 frames, so you need to win 18, right? So frames, right? The frame is one snooker game, whatever.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So the
only frames I know are in video games and
in streaming,
frames.
yeah, in streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called a frame, and since there is no draws in snooker, so they play, an odd number of frames.
Yeah. This is a good question. On the same topic, which country would you like to play chess in that you haven't already?
It's a good question, but once again, with me, it's kind of a special case because I'm not sure if I want to play chess at all.
Right, so
on
probably you
competitive
can
level.
see it as like
Which
you can see it as like a
country-
chess holiday or
Yeah,
something.
which country you'd like to visit? I've been to Italy, but I want to see more Italy. So that's like from European countries that's very
Yeah.
high on the list. Like Italy, Portugal, Spain,
Yeah.
maybe, but yeah, kind of strangely Portugal over Spain and Italy. So those are top of the list.
Yeah, I could definitely agree. I mean, I haven't been to Spain, so I'd love to visit Spain and probably like Netherlands and Belgium and so on. So a lot of the European countries I haven't been to, I'd love to visit
Yeah,
one
and
day.
in Belgium you'd be speaking the local language then. Yeah, so that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, probably in Netherlands you'd be speaking some Dutch or understand some words at least, or maybe even be able to understand the writings, the signs and so on. Someone in chat says, I knew it would get back onto snooker eventually. Which country would Mira like to play snooker in?
Snooker, yeah, you'd be surprised, but I've played snooker in different countries.
Okay.
Obviously not competitive, but with friends. Like we played with Peter Swidler
Yeah.
in Iceland, and then I've played against,
Okay.
I visited the hometown of Liviu Dieter Nisipiano, right, who represents Germany for quite some time, but he used to live in Bucharest. I don't know if he still does. And we played snooker in Bucharest.
Okay.
So you'd be surprised,
Bucharest.
but I've played snooker in different countries.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Bucharest is in not Bulgaria.
No, that's Romanian capital.
Romania. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Next time we are casting something, we'll play this, country capital game where.
I'm usually good at it, only because when I was much younger, I didn't know where countries were. I thought Brazil was in Europe at some stage, but I got a lot better at it. So I'm like almost fluent in flags and capitals, and
that's
as you can
interesting.
see, I'm a little bit
That's
rusty.
interesting.
At the moment.
Yeah, well, actually, I think we'd be evenly matched because I know, obviously, and I think it's only logical. I know Europe very well, right? But like if we are talking, I don't know, Africa, especially Oceania, I don't know, South America,
You might know more about
tricky.
Africa than I would. Yeah.
It gets tricky.
Yeah. So maybe we could test Miro's knowledge on flags rather.
Flags, I'm not very good. No, capitals, they're like country capital pair. I'm usually very good at.
Okay.
Okay, coming back to chess, Wesley Saw and Amin Tabatabai. So after knight to d7, rook e1 has been played. Black went knight e5, as I thought he would. e4, obviously, yeah. White's not interested in trying to keep the c4 pawn, so he's trying to develop some sort of an attack. Knight takes, bishop f1, the knight's hanging has to go back. Has to go back to e5, c4. So this way the center is, protected, and also, in a way, you can see it as white got rid of the c3 pawn, which he never needed. Because now bishop b2, and there is a diagonal for this bishop at the very least. So it's not like white is terribly upset with an absence of this pawn. I mean, he would rather have it on b3, of course, not c3, right? But since it's gone, it's not such a big loss. And Wesley goes knight g6. Once again, logical, so now he wouldn't mind trading the knights. I'm actually thinking, could it ever be this pawn takes, interestingly? It's like fg6, and then you want to block with e5 and use the f file. I mean, might be the case. I mean, sometimes they do take with the f pawn just to open the f file. But even h takes is probably good, and then the next black wants to block the center, like something like f4 e5 perhaps. And then who knows what's that? And then perhaps f5 happens, and black is in danger.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I mean,
You
if
do have
you
a
get
move
f5
there.
and g4, knight g2, okay, logical. Once again, You've sacrificed the pawn and you have the space advantage, so you do not want to trade the pieces. Don't want to trade the pieces. You'd rather, arrange some sort of
Would
f4,
it be
bishop b2.
an idea to, I was going to ask about f4.
Yeah, f4, well, sooner or later you do want to push the king side forward. This knight might go to e3, but first you need to find a way to.
What would be the way for Wesley So to advance here?
That's exactly what I'm thinking about, because usually it's not the greatest of ideas to try to, kind of defend passively and say, I'm a pawn up, I don't care. So you really need counterplay or, open some files to be able to trade. Like e takes d5, I was thinking, and then if e pawn takes, then you are not that unhappy. You probably play, queen c7 or d8, and then you want rook e8. So basically you want to trade as many rooks as possible on this e file.
Okay.
And you're probably
I would think
solid.
that since the center's sort of static, and maybe even after exchanging on d5, you'd still get a sort of blocked center, that the knights would be slightly better.
But you need squares for those knights, right? I mean, knights would be, once again, let me illustrate. So, like, if this pawn is kind of past the f4 square, if it's on f5, then you can say that e5 is a good square for the knight, yeah? But for now, where are the squares the knights are stable at? Like, you go to e5, first of all, it's white to move, so bishop b2, you can't go to e5, yeah? But even if you do, and let's say white is not interested in trading the knight, he can always go f4, right? And knight g4, he can go h3, and he'll keep pushing those knights away, yeah. So exactly. And not only that, but also after you captured c takes, which is much sharper, because, like we are adding asymmetry to a center position, right? So white potentially has f4 e5 break, black has potentially two connected passed pawns on the queen side. But once again, it would look scary to me if I'm playing black this position. So I'm not sure if e takes d5 is such a great move. Sometimes I would actually consider going b5, returning the pawn, but kind of destroying the center. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a good move here, but just as an idea, it might be. Like, for instance, trade here, white wins the pawn back, and, trade here, white wins the pawn back, and then you go a6 quickly, kind of trying to swap some pieces, and let's say in this scenario, white shouldn't do this, but if he does, let's say in this scenario, you're probably happy because you trade the bishop, and then a pawn is rather weak.
But it's a passer.
Yeah, he did go b5, by the way. He just played b5. Perhaps not very happily. He's left with 34 minutes after 16 moves, so it's not an indication of Wesley so enjoying this position.
Yeah, and Amin has an hour on the clock, so 30 minutes more.
It's fairly unbalanced, I have to say, after b5, because pretty much anything can happen. White could still try to keep the center. I'm just not sure what move do you play, but you basically don't do anything with the king, with the queen side. You let black capture on c4 and you take with the bishop. So would be one of the possible plans. Like, I don't know, go f4 for instance, or bishop b2. Yeah, bishop b2 for instance. You take here, white takes here. But then you run into various like knight e5s, or maybe that's the other version. Like, since black managed to open the b file, maybe now he can get away with e5. So he blocks the center, but at least he has one open file to trade some pieces off. So this might be the case, even though this is still kind of strategically dangerous. Something along the lines of f3. If you I don't know, I'll play just some moves, right? Even if you manage to play bishop a6 and trade, I should have probably prevented it with queen d3, by the way. But even if this happens and then knight e3 takes and knight takes on c4, I wouldn't say white is without a chance. even though he's a pawn down.
Okay.
That's a brilliant question that I keep asking myself and some FIDE officials. I mean, what's the point of writing down the moves? In modern era, in 2022, like where we have digital boards and so on.
It's ageless, but also, I mean, technology can fail us, but having a physical copy of something cannot. And also to know, okay, how many moves you made and so on. I know that they have these electronic sort of notation devices available, but I still prefer the writing down.
Yeah, the good old writing down the moves thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's partially a tradition, but also it's so deeply in the rules, right? Like, how do you claim the threefold properly, right? You have to write down the move after which the position would repeat 3 times, yeah, and then call an arbiter. Yeah, so it's sort of a formal way of keeping the track of the game, sort of.
Yeah.
All right, so c takes b5 played, decided to take on b5 and not on e6, okay. C takes b5 played.
I wouldn't mind if notation lasted a lifetime, to be honest, even though we could end up having like holographic chess sets or something like that, but we still have notation.
So ed5, yeah, well, actually, I like the way Wesley Saw goes about this position. ed5, and queen to d7. Okay. So now the d5 pawn is attacked. And, yeah, next move after, say, knight e3 is probably a7, a6, trying to disturb the b5 pawn early. I don't know. I mean, it still looks somewhat dangerous for black if white manages to accomplish the development, because yeah, like knight e3, bishop b2, white basically needs 2 moves. Knight e3 and then some sort of a pass from black, and then bishop b2, and black is in a bit of a trouble. But there won't be a pass from black, so black will perhaps go here, I'm guessing. So that after bishop b2, he can play, I mean, one rook to e8, some rook to e8. And yeah, the d5 pawn is weak sometimes. And then the bishop from b7 kind of joins the game, and maybe later on a7, a6. Yeah, so at least he's getting counterplay, Wesley Saw, and also, you know, kind of the way to simplify becomes a bit clearer, because the kind of divorce scenario that you may have in such position, that you have to kind of defend carefully without any chance to simplify, to trade pieces. I think what he's done is correct. And also it's sort of now the pressure is on Tabatabai in a way, so that yeah, let's find the exact moves right here, right now, because otherwise black will play a6, play rook e8, and just equalize. I think knight e3 though you do play.
And we didn't really talk about this c takes b5. I know you mentioned to like sort of leave the queen side alone, but he took a different approach.
Yeah, so that's strangely, like intuitively it feels good for black. And there are typical positions where this structure happens, and it's usually good for black. And that's why even my first reaction when I've discovered that the b5 is possible wasn't to simply capture on b5, right? I was looking at taking the e6 pawn. I was looking at like not reacting at all, but never looked at cb5, which might be a good move. Once again, I mean, it's different from the usual way of this position happening, because, you know, having the pawn on c5 and then going for b5 break, it's very characteristic of like Benko Gambit or some lines in the King's Indian, which implies that you have the bishop on g7 with black, right? So in reality, it's absolutely different position we are talking about. So the structure on the queen side is the same, but like usually it'd be other pieces differently placed and so on and so on. So it's only half of the board which looks the same, right? And that means the position is not the same. Wesley goes with rook f to e8. By the way, once again threatening to take on d5, like bishop b2, for instance, would allow black to take on d5, and then something like this happens. You take on e1. Now if queen takes bishop d5, I believe black is fine. So the real problem is knight f6 check intermediate, where you have to take, you don't have any other choice, and then white captures on e1. And then you go knight e5, and you are probably fine because you're threatening knight f3. Yeah, so that's perhaps a very important line. d5 pawn is hanging, and there is no bishop b2, so white really needs to spend time guarding d5 pawn. But how do you guard d5 pawn in this case? Bishop c4 runs into knight e5. Bishop g2 drops the b5 pawn. It could be that you have to do something awkward, like rook e2 all of a sudden. But then
that looks awful.
Yeah, it looks awful, but it does protect the d5 pawn, right? Because now if you take on e2, I can take with the bishop, and the queen still protects the knight. It does look awful because black, if anything, can still take the b5 pawn. The bishop's scope is blocked with the rook.
So yeah, maybe just that bishop g2 then.
Yeah, wait, but bishop g2 here, queen b5. You don't have rook b1. Yeah, sorry. If this rook b1 would have been possible, then white would still win, right? Queen a6, bishop f1 back, funny enough.
Right.
But there is no rook b1. And then if you play something like bishop d2, yeah, black will obviously find time to go back, or maybe go to d3, who knows. Yeah, so that's a very well spotted counterplay with this rook e8. Well done, Wesley. So, shall we take a look at the other game?
Let's do it.
Mamdyarov and Nakamura, Shak already going for... no. It looked like he was going for something like sharp, you know, but in fact he trades on d6. I mean, when I looked at the position from the camera view, I didn't pay attention to the live board, and I thought... The move he played, it was a mass of pieces in the center, and I thought for some reason that it's knight g5 takes e6. So I thought, yeah, probably black played f6, and then he sacrifices the knight and something starts happening, but no. All right, so after bishop e8, rook b1 was played with the tempo, the queen went back, knight a4, threatening the double attack on b6, rook a7, queen b3, bishop d6, and bishop takes d6. So now here comes the question. You can capture d6 immediately, but then knight c5. Now wait a second. There's a checkmate in one thread. It's unfair. So we'll have to play g3, right? He threatens a checkmate in one, which is nasty.
f4, no.
No, g3, yeah, f4, e3 is hanging. No, I think it's g3 or return to f3, but it feels like even if you play knight f3, having this diagonal open doesn't really work. So you probably end up playing g3 anyway. So yeah, you take on d6 with the queen. Let's say g3 played. No, he already played knight f3. Okay, pardon me. But anyway, the debate is the same. Does black take on a4? That's a serious question, by the way. Because the knight is headed towards c5, right? So do you take on a4 here, queen a4, and just claim that this is nothing for white? Like you could try to swap more pieces, like go rook c3, And then the bishop and the pawn on a3 are attacked. So white's only move, it would seem, is rook b3. And then you can go rook c7, for instance.
Oh, and it's still like there are background threats, even though your pawn is on h4.
Yeah, like sometimes that'd be. So that's why, once again, you probably want to play g3 at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. White's argument is that a5 is weaker than a3, right? So something like rook to b1, but then again, do you really take with the rook, leaving an option of this rook c1 check? And perhaps the answer is no. So even though you put the rook on b1, you probably take with the queen, and then a5 is not hanging, not more than a3 is hanging at least. And your only problem is this knight, which used to be very good, by the way. So now it's not doing an awful lot, but you can probably return it to like d7, f6, play g6, go king g7. It's all of a sudden.
I mean, it did a lot on f8, so.
Yeah, but all of a sudden that's a very solid position for both, you know. It looked much sharper a few moves ago, but now I don't even know if. And just pay attention. I mean, Shark is down to 32 minutes, so he also spent quite a lot of time. And apparently couldn't find anything promising, because the way he plays it, it looks like he's taking a modest approach, like kind of not to get in trouble. Like, okay, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, so I've decided to just trade as much as possible. Rook a to c7 played by Naka, surprisingly allowing knight c5, but maybe knight d7 is what he wants. In fact, I can see the evaluation bar being shifted in Naka's favor a little bit.
It was until his recent move, I guess, but maybe it's still the same. Or still?
Well, at least the evaluation bar. I mean, I do not have an access to an engine, but yeah, at least the evaluation bar says that black's better. Better perhaps is a strong word, but slightly more convenient game for black, perhaps.
It does look a lot more comfortable since the rooks are coordinated. This knight on g4 could become a problem later. And we were even taking a look at h5 much earlier, and it was more of a question of why would black do that? And now it looks terrific for black.
Yeah, but that's perhaps has to do with Mamedyarov not being able to really put problems on the king side, right? So yeah, this way it looks like black was faster to get this set up with queen on the diagonal, threatening h2, right? And because a few moves ago we could think of white having the queen on d3 and knight on g5 and sort of threatening the same, yeah. But for that, black had the knight on f8. So now Mamedyarov being to move, I'm guessing it's knight c5. Nevertheless, black goes knight d7, and then I don't know, maybe you just trade. And somehow make sure that you are not losing after rook c3, which might be a challenge, now I realize. Should still be possible to draw this game, but
so maybe exchanging queens, or at least trying to exchange
queen
queens.
b6, yeah, I thought so, but queen takes a3, and somehow and you have bishop a6. That's the trick. That's the trick. It works, yeah. So you attack the rook and the other, yeah, rook c6, and who knows?
Maybe it's repetition here with the queen b7 and so on, but
queen b7
and the other rook goes to
rook
c7.
to c7, but then it's a check, and I think no, you have this, by the way. You have this, and still white has to work for it. Maybe maybe queen a8 check. Maybe queen a8 check, getting ready for rook b8.
Oh wow!
Because this would be inaccurate, right? King h7 check here. And queen g7, and I think black's in trouble. Black's in trouble because f7 is hanging. Or maybe he's not. Knight h6. check, king f6, and then strangely it's not that easy to get to this king. Yeah. Anyway, it seems to be kind of a random set of moves, but it shows that white's not very comfortable.
They're probably seeing all of this.
And he went below half an hour, right? 28 minutes for Vachier-Lagrave. And still
Yes, that's
thinking,
accurate.
still thinking.
Well, his think time is 3 minutes currently, so I'm actually curious to know where he spent the most time.
He did spend a lot of time on his last few moves, and the moves themselves were not that impressive, to be honest.
So b5 is where he spent 21 minutes thinking.
Yeah, but b5 looked like a start of something cool. And later, did he spend, like, because I think like on rook b1, 18th rook b1 or 19th knight a4.
It was just accumulation of a bunch of, I think it was just accumulation of like 7 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 12 minutes. There was one for 12 minutes, bishop d3. But bishop d3, we also spoke about it being sort of a mystery.
Okay, so knight c5 played. Well, the thing could be that after knight d7, he's not actually trading, but going knight b7. I just realized. Yeah, and probably that's the thing. Yeah, knight b7, threatening the queen. Queen goes to e7, white can take on a5. And then you go here. Wait a second, and you win. Originally, I thought white just returns to d1. Rook a3 and returns to b3, but you can take you can take queen a3. You can take queen a3, and then both the bishop and the knight are hanging. So you'll have to play knight b3. But that looks scary. That looks scary. Yeah, there's
probably
also
just rook b8.
like bishop a4 or rook b8 as well. Rook b8, bishop c2. For now, I'm kind of holding. But yeah, like going to f6 and threatening bishop a4 might be a thing. So white is kind of not even equalizing after that. Knight d7 being perhaps the move, yeah. What else could he possibly think of? Interestingly, is e5 a move? e5, knight b7. Yeah, knight b7 is too strong. So e5, you don't want to... Or maybe e5 and then rook c3 once again a threat. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. Hard to tell. But yeah, knight d7 looks logical and also kind of aligns perfectly with previous Hikaru actions. Like being, you know, he does play for a win, it seems, in this position, but still being kind of strategically reasonable, doesn't go for anything crazy, like keeps the structure intact, keeps all the pieces on good squares. So that's actually the best strategy. I mean, if you can do this, then why not? Yeah. Okay, so Hikaru will be thinking, I suggest we look one more time at the other game. Maybe take another short break if like nothing crazy goes on. So let's switch to Tabatabai and Wesley Saw.
So some moves were made since we last saw.
Wesley was on what, 34 minutes. So in fact,
he caught up on time. Yeah, so Tabatabai has been thinking now for almost 15 minutes.
So no moves there. Yeah, but first we need the game. Yeah, I can see the question. Do we think that it will reach time control? This will reach time control. Apparently referring to Vachier-Lagrave Naka game. It might, but on the other hand, like it's move 23. Well, what's important is not if it will reach or will not reach, but how playable the position will be after time control. So in this specific instance, if the sides will continue making logical moves, right? The crisis comes within next 10 moves, I believe. Like white goes knight d7, black goes knight d7, then there's a lot of potential for simplification. So it might not reach the time control, I mean, and still be the game. might as well be that by the time we reach the time control, like a lot of pieces traded and the A pawns are traded, and then there's kind of nothing to play with left. Tabatabai and Wesley, I believe, is not reaching the time control, almost guaranteed. But yeah, but for some reason we are not switched to the other game. I mean, that's getting. Yeah. Okay. Finally, cool. Other game didn't really advance since the last time we've seen it, right? So that must have been the reason why. What about the heart rates? I mean, he used to have much higher heart rate, right? Than Wesley, I mean.
Yeah, so I think the last time I saw it was like 70 something for Armin and maybe 50 for Wesley.
50? He's a
roughly.
He's a kind of a snake king, not a human. I mean, then with such a low heart rate.
Yeah, I mean, it is showing, but obviously it's not accurate. Maybe along the lines of just, Armin having a slightly higher heart rate.
Yeah, so that would perfectly add up. Yeah, he's a younger guy. His position is sort of. He's also under bigger stress, like in a must-win situation. One could argue.
And he's more emotionally invested. I also feel as though. Sort of the longer you play chess and the more experience you have over the board, the less you're sort of inclined to be emotionally invested in the game itself. I mean, less affected and also more of a poker face, so you're less likely to shake or, this sort of thing.
It kind of sounds good as a theory, but does not necessarily prove itself true. I mean, that partially the reason why I kind of almost entirely stopped playing, because the emotional part doesn't go anywhere. And then, and when you used to do something good and then you try it and it happens to be less good or sometimes awful, and nobody enjoys losing, obviously, and that's why it makes you stop playing. Because not even the result, but the fact that the way the games go. So was it me to arrange the pieces in such a terrible way? I mean, you ask yourself, and then it's of course not fun. All right, so Tabatabai is thinking, and so does Hikaru, and I think that's a break time for us. So we'll be back in some 10 minutes. Both semi-final games are in progress. Do not go away too far.
Hi, I'm Vidit Gujarati. I'm 27 years old, an international chess grandmaster from India. I'm also the brand ambassador for FIDE Online Arena. It's a place where you can play for online rating and online titles which can be recognized by FIDE officially. I feel chess is a sport which can be definitely played online, which other sports don't enjoy the luxury of. And the most important thing is that you can play from the comfort of your home, be it any time, against strong players all around the globe. And since the past 2 years, we have seen a boom in online chess. And be it for professional players or for people who have just started, I think it provides a great opportunity. In the next few months, I'll be streaming and playing games on the FIDE Online Arena. So be a part of it, and who knows, maybe we'll end up playing a game with each other. See you soon on the FIDE Online Arena.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the semifinals, and we've got big developments. We're starting. We have this game on the camera, Mamdyarov against Nakamura, but I think much more interesting things are happening in the other game.
Yes, it was just the recent move that was made that just took me aback. I wasn't sure why it was. I need some like GM expert explanation as to what happened. But okay, we're seeing it from the current position of Bishop B2.
Yeah, so Bishop B2.
We're just hoping for the analysis board quickly.
Yeah. Bishop B2 was surprisingly a choice by Amin, so allowing this knight takes D5 sequence, right? So Bishop D5, knight takes D5, the one that we've discussed, right? Rook takes E1, and the intermediate move, ruining black's pawn structure, perhaps is not worthwhile at tempo, right? Because black would play knight e5 and then would be threatening knight f3 check. So therefore he decided to take on e1 immediately, bishop d5, rook d1. And during the break, I was kind of calculating the same lines, and I was thinking, yeah, perhaps black is under some sort of an attack, white is getting, some initiative. But it turns out that there is this knight h4 move, which I've also spotted, but kind of couldn't believe my eyes that it works. So knight h4 was an obvious threat of a fork on f3, and therefore you cannot take the d5 bishop, right? And the knight cannot be taken itself because queen g4 check, and it's a checkmate in two. So even though both pieces seem to be hanging, none of them can be taken.
We both missed something here. Apparently, rook to d3 helps the case for white here. And white is somehow winning.
White is winning after rook d3, seriously.
Yes.
So it's not us then who missed it, but Wesley did. And the trick is that after knight f3, rook f3, bishop f3, there is a queen c3 move, attacking the bishop and the g7 pawn. And after queen g4, which would seem to be a solution to the problem, right? White has h2, h3. And you can't really keep the bishop and the pawn protected at the same time. You would with queen d4, so still the line kind of goes on, but then queen f3, queen takes b2, and at the very end of this line, queen a8. So with rook being elsewhere, with with in this position, rook a8 to e8 being played, you'd be surprised, but the entire sequence would work for black. Like just play the other rook to e8 and everything would work. So interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the real question is, will Amin spot the line?
Yeah. So rook d3.
I think it's very easy to miss this after queen to g4. That h3 is just winning, but maybe.
Yeah,
it depends on
it's kind of
how sort of.
What else? Yeah, you probably. If you're Wesley, you've calculated that far, and you've probably checked bishop e2. Which kind of does the same job if you go knight f3, right? But the thing is queen h3 in this case. Yeah, queen h3 is threatening a checkmate. But rook d3 kind of wins, right? And
yeah, apparently it's the only move as well. Any other move is completely lost for white.
Yeah.
You found it.
Rook d3 is played, and is there
my gosh.
Wait a second, is there any way of coming back? Is there any way of coming, or rather continuing?
It's +5.
+5 is a lot, yeah. Well, Wesley just yeah.
It was between +5 and -4.
And
so
honestly,
it was a matter of.
I don't understand the reason. Why are you so fast? You were not forced. If you have an engine on, so instead of knight h4, a move like bishop e6, black is in the game, right? It's not like he's lost or anything. Well, perhaps white has enough compensation, but not more than that. Yeah, bishop e6 would have been solid. here. So it's knight h4 which loses the game, right? Something like bishop e6 would have been solid, and then queen c3. You can actually play knight knight e5 f4. So you go f6. Yeah, you go f6. And yeah, I mean, the game goes on. Bishop g2, maybe bishop c6, some tricks, and white does have the compensations I've already mentioned, but you do not lose immediately. Yeah, so that's basically a one-move blunder from Wesley So, which is very uncharacteristic of him. And yeah, Tabatabai must be delighted to see it. Wait a second, but is there really like any sort of moves that keeps you afloat? Wait, and if bishop b7, you can take the knight. So the rook d3 thing also does it in such a way that there is rook g3. So check on g4 no longer wins. No, so there's simply no move at all. Simply no move at all. I mean, you might as well just resign here. I mean, you probably go for this, what was the line? Knight f3, right? This queen...
You probably go for a rook versus two bishops, but
h6,
it is a lot as well. Yeah.
That's absolutely lost. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, with some other pawn structures, so that you'd have the open file for the rook and the bishops would not have the diagonals. Like I say, with pawn on d5 instead of b5. It's probably winning for white nevertheless, but it's much harder. It's much harder to win. With pawn on b5, white doesn't really need to think. I mean, it's sort of automatic. You put the bishop on c3, you put the other one on c4, so black is paralyzed. The entire king side is targeted, right? And then you move, you already have your pass pawn candidate ready. So you move it to a5, you go b6, b7, you just win. So that
someone in chat actually asked if c4 was an option here by black.
c4 by black. Let me think. I guess you only needed a tempo to go queen c3. That's the point. So kind of an immediate queen c3 here would allow for knight f3 check, king h1, knight d4 check, and then you go more or less anywhere from here. You've blocked the diagonal, right? You're ready for an attack. But after c4, queen c3 happens. G7 is a threat of checkmate in 1, so you have to guard against it.
So then you
and
can
then I just take d5. Yeah, I just take a
yeah.
d5 to basically any move black plays. Pretty much any move black plays. Yeah, so c4 doesn't really help. That's an incredible miss by Wesley So.
And Wesley was about 7 minutes up on the clock, and now they've sort of equalized on time. But you'll probably spend a lot more time trying to realize what happened.
No, but he should have spent time before. I mean, on a previous move, he played it like spending 1 minute maximum, maybe less. So that means I was secretly hoping for no tiebreak tomorrow. Let me confess, but because it looked like Naka had some chances, maybe. But now, since the tiebreak is guaranteed, let it be 2 tiebreaks. So at least that'd be more to watch, more to commentate on.
Well, I suppose we can't entirely count our chickens before they hatch. Anything could happen because it looks as though...
No, I mean, in this position, no. He's not coming back. He's not coming. There is simply like no way you're not winning with white, really. Like, or you blunder. Like, yeah, I mean, there is always a possibility that you blunder a queen or something, but not. I'm afraid not in over the board game, right? I mean, if it would be played online, there is this mouse slip chance still.
Well, I know at a very high level that queen blunders have happened, indeed. I don't know if it was there was some tournament in 2000. I'm gonna lie to you if I tell you the year, but I'm pretty sure Anand was playing with the white pieces and blundered his queen in the opening, but it was like a miscalculation of some. I can't even remember. I could probably go back and check, but I know that Anand was one of the players in that game.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
sometimes it happens, but then once again, White's play from
It's
now
very
on.
unlikely.
Yeah, like from
Yeah.
now on, White's play seems to be so logical, so you can't even go wrong, it seems. So shall we?
Mirror never, as chat says, Mirror never waits for the chickens to hatch.
Yeah, no
eggs.
problem. Exactly.
Because
yeah.
of your love for eggs. Yeah.
Exactly. Ooh. Shall we look at? I mean, somehow leaving this game doesn't seem to be appropriate. Such a drama on the board, but
I don't want to leave.
Yeah, but
also we do have another game to look at.
yeah. On the other hand, you know,
understand.
Wesley will probably spend quite some time here, kind of trying to comprehend what just happened. So it took him one moment to lose concentration, and it's gone, right? So a move ago, literally a move ago, everything was good.
Yeah. And he's posing like one of those ancient marble Greek statues.
Yeah.
The one that's pensive, where you're sort of leaning on your knee. I don't know if you know that one. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's maybe check what Mamyar and Nakamura are doing, because at some point it looked that Naka might also have chances with black. It's still far more, you know, solid for both compared to this game, where it was fairly unbalanced the moment Wesley blundered. But yeah. Still, I find it hard to believe, to be honest. I mean, Wesley saw blundering in a chess game. Shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't have happened. I mean, that's
High
something.
stakes, I guess.
Yeah, well, perhaps. Or, well, he plays queen to g4. So this way, both the knight and the bishop are protected. Hang on a second. So how does White win? I was told White is winning.
Yeah, so I think this is just a different move order, but he went for queen g4.
And then he still
So perhaps
go.
We go queen. I'm not
Queen
so sure. Queen c3, I guess. Yeah.
But yeah, but
With it
wait a
still
second.
being-
But then at least I'm not dropping a piece immediately, right?
But there's still that h3.
Queen.
So the queen c3, f6. Or not even f6, you can just drop the bishop
Yeah,
back,
you
right? So
move the bishop away.
b7.
Yeah, f6. I'm taking the bishop. I'm very happy. No, but it's bishop b7.
Bishop b7.
And then apparently h3.
I don't know. Let me actually check. I'm just
Yeah, I think it's
probably sucking my thumb at this
h3.
point.
Queen g6. There is rook d6.
Apparently h3 is equalizing, but the winning move is bishop to e2. So
You
after
mean
queen c3,
bishop b7, bishop e2.
Yes.
Okay, but that's not an easy move to find.
This is not easy at all, no.
Yeah, bishop e2.
So he probably saw this.
Queen c3. Oh, oops. Queen c3 played already. Queen c3 played already. Bishop to b7, and then bishop e2. Yeah, that's. Yeah, I agree. At least he managed not to fall apart. Yeah, and I kind of get it. Yeah, h3, queen g5 first is what you play. f4. Now you can play queen g6. And the point being that rook d6 runs into knight f3 check, perhaps. Or not. There is still king f2. So I'm not...
This is so complicated.
Yeah, I agree. But bishop e2 wins. Yeah, well... So this, bishop e2, and then queen g5, f4, and queen g6. You know, bishop h5 is even possible. Bishop h5 is possible. And then you take the knight. Because, yeah, basically, whenever the queen distracts, you're checkmating on g7, so the queen has to stay there. It's queen h6
right, so
is the
bishop-
only move, and then at the very least you can take this guy. Or you can probably win by doing this.
Wow, okay. Take on d6.
Yeah, take on d6, give a check, you know, go to f7. It already feels like White's winning.
So that was the difference, those of you wondering in chat. I saw the question, what's the key difference with bishop e2? So it's that possibility to not only, of course, play bishop h5, but the whole move order with queen g5, queen
g6. So I think the big thing is that f3 is guarded, so there is never knight f3 after, say, this move and rook d6. Yeah, even if you don't play bishop h5 after rook d6, for instance. Right. There is no... yeah, you know how you win, Jesse. You go here, and then you go here. Okay, that's beautiful. Rook f6, and then queen f6, and a checkmate. And a knight f3 check. Yeah, knight f3 check is only one check. It's king f2. And queen b1 check is only one check. It's king f2. It's impressive. Like, the game could finish like this, and then black goes with his everlast threat of queen h1 and some queen g2 checks, and then rook f8 and queen g7 checkmate.
Wow.
Yeah, so bishop...
I'm wondering if the queen c3 was obvious, because he played that almost instantaneously, but the remainder of the line, well, obviously it's Wesley to move.
Yeah, like queen c3 is very logical. The bishop e2 part is hard. The bishop e2 part is hard. And I wonder if, say, bishop e4 makes any difference.
And who said art in chess is dead?
But it's... what's... I don't see why is it art. I mean, one player making a terrible mistake. I mean, why is it an art?
Oh, maybe we find it isn't only we find the art in our faults, but we find the art in others' faults too.
Okay.
I guess.
Right, so Wesley thinking again, and by that point he probably realized that knight h4 wasn't the best move. But yeah, we shall see. And I really want to check Mamedyarov Nakamura, and it will be a draw, so we will have two tie breaks. It will be a draw, Mamedyarov Nakamura game. As I said, the position had a lot of potential for simplifications. So, you know, some pieces being traded, and what's especially important, the pawns being traded, the a pawns. Because over here, look, I mean, they've swapped on d7, and then a4 was played by Mamedyarov. And I was thinking, yeah, rook c3, queen d1, exactly. And I was thinking that something like, I mean, I don't know what the move should be. But yeah, let's just make it up. g6, bishop b5 takes on b5. And then if you take with the rook, I was wondering if black can ever get to the first rank somehow by going queen a3 or queen a3 or something. Yeah. No, I think you specifically need rook c1 and then one more rook to c1. So this would not suffice.
Right, just to have
this
that
would
effect,
not suffice. But maybe queen c7. But the main point was that if you happen to take with the pawn, then black blocks the b pawn and then controls the c-file and might as well start advancing the a-pawn. So it's probably a draw still, but white is clearly a defender. And the way it turned in the game, Naka just captured on a4, liquidating the pawns away. Queen a5, rook d to c3, queen a7, rook to c6. Rook c6, by the way, played so that after rook b7 he has rook a6.
Wow.
Rook a6.
Maybe there's
trapping the
like
queen. Yeah, rook d7.
Turn.
Yeah, you're not lost, by the way. Yeah, so rook d7, and you might be fine. But that's certainly not something you want to do with white.
So there is a question. If instead of playing rapid games, the tiebreaks consisted of commentators choosing who would advance, who would you pick? And I think that'll actually earn us many, many more enemies, but who would you pick?
I don't know. No, seriously. Seriously, I would probably, if it'd be my choice, I would trust, a coin flip or something, because here, I mean, for this semifinals for sure. I mean, I don't have. But first of all, I don't find it appropriate anyway. I mean, if let's say a friend of mine would be playing, that strange theory no matter what. Yeah, but for this specific semi-finals, I would just flip a coin.
Yeah, and someone else suggested that perhaps Chad should choose.
Chad should choose, but then you know, then
Once
Naka would
again.
win all the tournaments, so that's not fair once again.
Very diplomatic.
Rook b2. Yeah, that's not much to discuss here. It's not much to discuss. I wonder
Probably.
if Naka is playing for a win at all, or they're just, you know, reaching move 30 and then agreeing a draw immediately after that. Yeah. So I suggest let's go back to the other game because it's much more.
There was a move made.
It was a move made by wait a second, by Wesley Saw, right?
Yes.
And it is not bishop b7, it's bishop e4. Okay. Interestingly, the board says it was better to go knight f3, rook f3, bishop f3, after which we already know white is completely winning. He goes h3
Yes.
and that this is it. So if this was better, I'm wondering how bad is bishop e4 and what does white do?
I think it's all the same, actually.
So bishop e2.
Doesn't change the evaluation.
So bishop
Bishop
e2,
E2.
it's exactly the same. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's one more time, bishop e2 wins and h3 doesn't. That's already something. That's already something. Bishop e2, hang on a second. If I go queen g5 one more time, f4, and could it be that I'm sort of alive with queen f6? Aye. So again, bishop e2, queen g5, f4, and queen f6. Point being, yeah, if you take this guy, I'm planning to take this guy and then this guy. And this, at the very least, makes black survive to the endgame, which apparently is lost, doesn't matter the connected passed pawns, but at least, you know, something is going on still. The question is queen f6 perhaps, and rook to e3, and then you just lose a piece and the game. Both the knight and the bishop are hanging, and you can't save both of them. Yeah. Too bad.
Too bad. Comments from Miro. Yeah.
Bishop
It is
e2
for
on
sure.
the board.
Bishop e2.
Bishop e2,
Wow.
queen g5 played, yeah. Oops.
No. f4?
f4, yeah, f4 seems very logical. So you want to push the queen away again. f4, wait a second, what was... but there is no alternative, because any alternative runs into this rook d6 thing, yeah? So queen is hanging, and you have 3 squares not to be checkmated in one and keep the queen on the board, right? Which are f6, g6, and h6. Yeah, and queen f6 is nonsense also because of some queen c1 or queen d2, and then the queen is hanging and all the pieces as well. Yeah, queen d2 perhaps, and then they takes on d6. But yeah, but this is convincing enough. This is convincing enough.
Wow.
Yeah, really big win for Amin.
80, it suggests that Wesley So's heart rate is at 80.
Mm-hmm.
And Amin's is about 55.
I mean, I find it hard to believe the 55 part, really, because, yeah, I mean, the position is good, but aren't you nervous?
If I was winning like this,
Aren't
I
you
would
nervous?
actually
I
have...
think it's like it should be closer to 100, right?
Yeah, I wasn't really. And he was even doing a stretch for us over there. So he seems calm, but in reality, it's usually a lot different. I think maybe this just proves that chess players are really good at the whole poker face thing.
Queen g5. Yeah, you probably just go f4. I mean, I don't. Yeah, like the bad news for black is that even if white kind of doesn't find f4, I don't know how you don't find f4, but takes on d6, white is still much better. Because now the material's equal, there are no threats to the white king, there are an awfully dangerous threats to the black king, and once again f4 being the main motif. So white is still kind of winning in practically every aspect of the position. Yeah, but f4 wins on a spot, of course.
Someone in chat suggests 55 basically means Armin is in hibernation.
Yeah, but seriously, I would not trust those figures. Feels like something's off.
We can use it as a guide.
Yeah, like Wesley's heart rate is higher than Amin's heart rate, and that.
But both of them are roughly 90, 100. Or rather, the suggestion of one being higher than the other.
Okay, so he doesn't want to miss anything. That's why he's calculating. But is there anything else rather than f4 that you'd be settled for? No, probably not. I think it's f4. And once again, I honestly don't see why you wouldn't play it. I mean, what could be the line that you're not happy with after f4? Because by that point, you obviously see the move, and you do not look for any alternative before you actually getting stuck with f4 and some move from black, right? So, I mean, f4 is like the most direct way of winning this position if it works. In our case, it works. So you start by checking f4, it works, you play it. But maybe, yeah, he's kind of living this moment through. So he was not expecting, like a few moves back, he would not be expecting to win, right? And then all of a sudden it worked for him beautifully. Yeah, I mean, it's very tricky, I have to say. I mean, it's very tricky. Now, recalling back this Yu Yangi's game against Amin, where Yu Yangi failed to win an absolutely winning position. So he could have been the one to play in the semifinals, in fact.
Probably. Yeah. And he's probably dreading that game as well, thinking back and analyzing. I suppose when it comes to like a must-win situation, just to make the semifinals.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Amin almost touched the d6 pawn. Is he not playing f4, pardon me? Because if he doesn't, all of a sudden it's the game. He is much better, but it's the game. It's nowhere near like completely winning. I don't think it's +5 anymore. It kind of gives black a chance to be back in the game. I wonder for how long. Yeah, maybe still white is completely winning. Wait a second. On the other hand, now f4 is still a threat. Yeah, I'm actually threatening f4 and win the game on the spot.
The engine still really seems to like white's position here, but I think we're
but what's
both taken aback by this.
What's the evaluation? Still plus.
It's +4.
+4 is still a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering, like, could knight f5 potentially work? Yeah. Knight f5, but maybe you win with something like queen e5. Attacking the bishop and also threatening h4, which would now surprisingly trap the queen. Because originally I thought you can take c5, being the knight on the 5th rank, but then queen e7 happens, and it's somewhat weirdly white's not winning. It's like queen c5, queen e7, and the rook is attacked all of a sudden. And you can't really move it because rook c6, there's bishop c6. White might not be lost yet, or maybe he is, in fact, yeah. Maybe he is lost. But yeah, but queen e5's on the board, yeah. Queen e5.
And knight f5.
Queen e5, knight f5, queen e5, yeah.
Oh, queen e5, yes.
And now, what do you even do? There seemingly is no move. The bishop's hanging. After bishop b7, h4 just wins. After bishop b1, h4 wins. h4 wins after any move. Yeah, and he stood up from the game, kind of reporting, consider my job done, dear sir. Let's meet tomorrow. Yeah,
direction.
Let's meet.
Oh no!
You know, let's meet each other tomorrow at the tiebreak playoff.
That's a big statement to make.
Yeah, no, but really, I don't really see what's the move. Ah, wait a second. Am I once again running in front of a Queen e7, right?
What happens
Queen
after
e7
Queen
is
e7?
no,
What
but
does White
I
play?
just lost it entirely. I've completely missed that this square. It's like in my head, the knight was busy guarding g7, and e7 was not possible at all because I thought I take on e7 and you cannot
take, but you can't.
take back because my queen will checkmate you
Yeah.
on g7, and the fact
You
that
need two queens.
the fact that you take the queen specifically kind of escaped my attention. Then it's still lost. I won't you won't hear anything new, but like not playing f4 and winning on a spot is surprising. I mean, it's still lost because of don't know what's the proper moves order going to be. I mean, probably just bishop c4 and then rook d7 next. And it's still terrible, of course. But at least black did not resign. At least black did not resign immediately.
That's good. It's hard to have faith in a position where there's so many options, I suppose, and to like sort of trust your opponents to find all these moves. You kind of want to test to see if they will see it.
Yeah. No, but I'm really surprised that like maybe they're getting tired, but the quality, it seems quite a drop in quality of play. Like the last game, also the previous game that Wesley has won, on a means part, it was just a poor game. I mean, he was playing quickly. He entered this kind of shaky position of the queen side, and then he fell apart without actually showing the idea of the line. Like imagine you go for something that is provocative in a way, and everyone who is watching the game expects you to. I mean, since you went for this position, you must have had an idea of what's going on, and then you just play it like it was always a bad position. So it looked surprising yesterday. It, of course, looks much more surprising today, the way Wesley got in trouble. He's still thinking, so I'm wondering if he'll once again surprise us with something, which I'm not sure what it could be. Yeah, you probably end up playing queen e7 and fighting for dear life, but that's an awfully bad position.
Wow.
Are the games still in progress?
It is indeed, and there were some moves made if we want to take a look.
Yeah, sure. Because this one is not finishing anytime soon, I believe. Wesley will end up playing queen e7, and the game will continue. Let's take a look at Mamedyarov Nakamura then, once again, before it's too late. I wonder why is it in progress, really? Is Naka trying?
They're fighting for.
like is Naka really trying to play this one for a win, or what's the thing? Like if White desperately starts, hunting the queen to trade it away, for instance. I wasn't sure because I've actually thought that it might be a problem with the f2 pawn, right? but you seem to be just on time to go, say, knight e5 and knight takes, pawn takes, and what can go wrong? I mean, I really don't know. It's such a limited material. It's nothing to be done. But
I see on your software you have like a little hand that looks like this, and it's like guess the move.
Which one? Yeah, I don't know.
There's
I guess
a little
the move.
button
Yeah,
at the
there is.
top.
There is.
That looks very interesting.
Guess the next move in the live game. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not my to-go software. It's just we are using it for this specific tournament. That's
yeah.
all right. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to say about this position. I'm not even sure what's going on. There is a threat. Yeah, this much I see. There is a threat of rook a8 to b8, and then.
Yeah, I wonder what happens after this threat just disappears. So, I mean, there is rook fb1, and then the knight is on g4. So maybe he's finding that he does have the pressure compared to what white has in this position.
Rook fb1. So he's the one who wants to play on. Is it so? Wow, that's interesting. In fact, I've never considered that it could be white who would continue the game. But now I realize that after rook fb1, in fact, both black rooks are really awkwardly placed.
Yeah.
Unless you want to go rook b8, but then white trades the queen for two rooks, right? And that's extremely dangerous. I think white is much better here in this case. You probably do not win with knight g5, but you don't have to. You just go g3, king g2, make it solid first, and then, only then, you go after something. And by the way, knight e3 might seem to be like a cute tactic.
Do you think this has anything to do with Shaq's sort of faith in his own rapid skills compared to what Hikaru has shown in the past?
Not at all. No, I mean, we are free to speculate about, like, okay, Hikaru is the favorite in rapid or possibly in blitz. But the players, I think they just play the game. I mean, there might be some specific moment in the game where you kind of have a chance to settle for a quiet draw or play, with unpredictable consequences. If it would be the case in our game, then we could speculate that, let's say, he decided to go on because he would consider himself an underdog in rapid playoff. And there have been examples, right? There have been examples of Topalov pushing in the previous Grand Prix when it was a knockout. It's been examples of Magnus settling for a draw in his much better position against Caruana because he believed in himself being a favorite on tiebreak, and we're talking the previous World Championship match. But for this kind of events, I think, it's ever slightly. You might be thinking, but perhaps before the match, not when the game is on. And what did Hikaru do? Queen c7. Yeah, very, very, very slowly trying to trade off everything. Yeah, queen takes, rook takes, and the draw will be agreed anytime soon, I guess. Shock, still thinking. I mean, I really don't know what to say, because
we should have the player cams up instead of us.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of it? What's the point of it? Like, really, you want to win this position against Hikaru Nakamura? I'm not even sure who is playing. So maybe I'm too hasty to kind of declare it a draw, same way as I've declared Tabatabai already has won and he didn't.
Well, I suppose you don't get more drawn than 0-0.
No, but not only that. I mean, it's not the computer evaluation, but the way the position is.
Of course.
So it's like, how do you even misplay it? Yeah, okay, knight h2, brilliant. knight h2, and then after black will capture on h2. No, Naka actually goes back to h6. I mean, some sort of a comedy is going there. And, well, if he doesn't play... Yeah, so now is the moment of truth. So white probably goes knight f3 back. And then if Hikaru doesn't play knight g4 back, that at least it will indicate that he's the one who kind of tries to play on.
Right. And Chad suggests this is funnily symmetrical. And the pawn structure is symmetrical.
It's absolutely symmetrical. I mean, that's exactly why I'm saying that can hardly imagine any side sort of making any sort of progress. I wanted to say substantial progress, but not like even like how do you even like get an advantage of a fraction of a pawn? You don't. You don't.
Back to f3.
You don't. Yeah, knight obviously goes back to f3. So it went to h2 with only one objective to be traded for the g4 knight. Since the g4 knight leaves, you go back to f3. I mean, you could play f6. There is no argument. Yeah, you could play f6 and say, yeah, I'm playing on, and yeah, that's what Hikaru does.
So there's no arena kings tonight, everyone.
No, but what's the point? All right, move 37, so reaching the time control. Did he like, maybe that's more of a psychological game, so he kind of feels Shak is uncomfortable playing this position. It could be the case, yeah, sometimes that's exactly what happens. So you feel your opponent is uncomfortable playing some like dead draw position. But yeah, but after knight e1, you know what, the knight's gonna get to d3, and then it has squares on c5 and f4 ready. And by the way, the other game has finished.
Oh.
The other game has finished, and Amin has won. Yeah, Amin has won.
Congratulations to Amin. That's a big win for him.
That's...
especially with probably 150 points difference between them.
Yeah, so Wesley, of course, was a huge favorite when it comes to ELO. Yeah, 149, not even 150 points.
Right,
as they say on Twitch, not even 150 points favorite. Yeah, so but really well played by Amin Tabatabai. Doesn't matter that Wesley did blunder, but first one has to create the situation where Wesley blunders, which isn't very common occurrence. And also, like after he blundered, one had to take a chance to play it properly till the end. So yeah, congrats to Tabatabai, and those two will continue playing. We'll continue playing tomorrow. We can listen to the interview with the players because the other game seems to be going on.
Of Amin. I mean, congratulations on your victory today. Starting from the beginning, let's say, were you happy with the opening stage?
Yeah, I just want to somehow surprise him because I know like he knows his lines really well, and it's really possible to touch his lines. He's extremely solid. But yeah, I was quite happy with the outcome of the opening. I'm pretty sure I had also this queen e7 which he played in my file, but with knight d7, but I couldn't remember anything. Maybe the move was bishop f4. But I saw the idea of this rook e1 and sacrificing the pawn after bishop f5. There's b5, very interesting move, but I was considering rook b1, and in some lines I go bishop g5. It's very complicated.
Yeah.
But then he played knight e5, which was quite solid, and I was really happy with my position until he played b5. Still, I thought b5 shouldn't work, but it was working perfectly for him. And after, what happened was just crazy. Like, I played rook d1. I completely blundered knight h4. I thought everything falls apart after knight h4. But
I thought
then
it was a trick, yeah. I thought you prepared it.
no, I didn't prepare it at all. And after rook d3, it's so strange that white is completely winning. So in the first moment, I thought like it's completely lost. But then I have a move which is completely winning for me. It just happens like once in a blue moon. It's just so rare. I was incredibly lucky that moment. But I think after that, like black has almost zero chance. Yeah.
So you had all spectrum of emotions today during the game.
Yeah, true.
Okay, Wesley, what happened? I mean, you played quite quickly this knight h4, simply blundering rook d3, or what happened?
Yeah, well, I just want to say my opponent's a great player. I mean, he's very young. Also, I think COVID pandemic has affected young players like you, making you 2 years older. Yeah, so you are technically 19. But yeah, my opponent's a great player, fighting player, very aggressive, very tactical. And yeah, I just blundered knight h4, rook d3. So that's all I gotta say about the game.
Yeah, but at the beginning, I think things were going well. You spent some time on move d6 in the opening. Let's say what happened there.
Blundered, yeah, blunder happens.
Okay, can you recall something like that in your, let's say, career when you blundered like in one move or
No,
two
I
before?
really thought you prepared.
No, I was
Like
so shocked after knight
thinking
h4.
a long time, yeah, before.
I
But-
was so upset after that. But
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe I should use the a rook. So rook a8, so rook f8. So because in many lines my rook's always hanging. Yeah, also instead of rook f8, I could play knight e7, and then whatever white plays, bishop g2, bishop c4, then rook f8, and at least I get to trade the. I force his bishop to move, so the back rank is open.
Also for the public, let's say you, Wesley, you resigned when we had all the pieces on the board, basically, in the same amount. So, but why the position is lost?
It's not gonna be equal for a long time. Basically, anybody who plays chess knows it's lost because white has a bishop pair, better pawn structure, active rooks, and black cannot move. Rook is on the 6th rank, 7th rank, so all the technical pluses are for white. Like you just have to learn the basics. No, it's lost.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, and let's see you on tiebreak tomorrow. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vidit Gujarati. I'm 27 years old, an international chess grandmaster from India. I'm also the brand ambassador for FIDE Online Arena. It's a place where you can play for online rating and online titles which can be recognized by FIDE officially. I feel chess is a sport which can be definitely played online, which other sports don't enjoy the luxury of. And the most important thing is that you can play from the comfort of your home, be it any time, against strong players all around the globe. And since the past 2 years, we have seen a boom in online chess. And be it for professional players or for people who have just started, I think it provides a great opportunity. In the next few months, I'll be streaming and playing games on the FIDE Online Arena. So be a part of it, and who knows, maybe we'll end up playing a game with each other. See you soon on the FIDE Online Arena.
Welcome back, everybody, to this very exciting game between Mamedyarov and Nakamura. Should have been agreed a draw 100 moves ago, but yeah, okay, still here we are.
100 moves.
Yeah, but at least, at least it's, at least we are guaranteed a tiebreak tomorrow. So it better be 2 tiebreaks then. Well,
might as well.
And perhaps you've seen the way Naka played his last move, like almost like he is winning. This last G5 came along with such a gesture that, someone less experienced than Shah could have been scared by that move. But
not today.
Not today, I'm guessing, not today. Well, it does apply some pressure though, because what do? You probably end up capturing on G5, because otherwise it's black who's gonna trade on H4, play knight F5, and then the H4 pawn is kind of weak. It's still a bit awkward for white, if I'm perfectly honest. Yeah, it's not like white can make a draw with his eyes closed. So he probably captures over there, he goes king e2, and then black might start pushing the pawn. Well, actually, that's a little bit tricky, right? And the pawn's already on h4, and after knight f3, the pawn's on h3 already. This is where it's probably gonna stop, because you go rook b6, and, you may win the knight, perhaps, by going knight g5. So king f7, knight g5 is the trick, of course.
Right.
So white's going to take the pawn this way. And you may probably win a piece by going knight g4, rook e6, and h2. So you win the piece, but not the game, of course. So takes, the knight is kind of misplaced. Yeah, just go e4 or rook e5. Yeah, e4 is good enough.
Well, chat says here, if you slam a piece down fast, you're automatically winning. So maybe this is what his point is trying to get across.
But how do you do it? Once again, how do you do it? I understand chat likes to fantasize about both games being decisive today, but like really, if Mamedyarov loses this one, I'll be very, very surprised. And yeah, we've reached this somewhat strange stage of the game where, basically, it seems like nothing can happen. And at the same time, they have they've reached the time control, right? So quite a lot of time on player's clock. And the game seems to be going on. Therefore, well, I'm actually a little bit surprised with what Shahryar has done. So he went g3, rook a to c3, and then for some reason he went impatient, because what was wrong with going king g2 first? Nobody knows. Like, you go king g2, and then you get your knight to f4 by going rook b3, or even rook d2 in a more passive way. You go rook d2, you go knight d3, and so on. So he went impatient, he went rook b3, a bit of an impulsive move. Black trades, goes rook c1, and it's a little bit annoying. Yeah, after rook c1, you have to go king f1, so that's... next move, you'd be pinned along the first rank. So after g5, yeah, you probably could try this immediately. Maybe it's an easier way, in fact. So that if black captures and goes knight f5, you just counter-attack one of the pawns. Maybe by going rook b6. And then if king f2 happens, you can actually... Maybe you do this and knight f4, maybe even go to g2. It's an awkward placement for this knight, yeah, but knight g2, and then, that's the way to misplay it, because black goes e5, and the knight all of a sudden almost trapped on g2. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, yeah. So it was, perhaps a few moves ago, it was the position where you could make a draw with pretty much any move. Now you have to be slightly careful. So, well, if anything, Shahryar, we could say, misplayed it a bit. But yeah, but still, it's so surprising. Yeah, he was not, yeah, after Queen C7 trades. One more time, I mean, I'm not sure why not knight e5 instead of knight h2, but yeah, fine. Because knight e5, I don't think Naka would kill knight h6 in that case, but who knows. There was also knight g5 threatening rook b8. So I think by that point in time, Hikaru was, or rather Shahryar was acting under the assumption that the draw is inevitable and Hikaru would trade on h2. So that's why he went knight h2, which now I fully stand behind Hikaru's point. Maybe it doesn't change the evaluation of the position, but since this knight h6, f6 puts some pressure on white, why not try playing it? Okay, so Shah needs to shape up a little and find the most convincing way of making a draw. One of the options could be, you know what, to take and to keep the knight pinned for now and go e4, kind of trying to trade off as many pawns as possible. That could be an option. You go e4, point being if black takes, you go rook e3 and then take on e4 next move. Something along the lines of knight f5, rook takes e4, perhaps king f7. And then, yeah, once again, draw seems inevitable to me, but then even d5 might be good. And then rook here. You can hardly hope to, maybe you do hope to win after knight d4. Yeah, some chances still. I mean, it's somehow tricky. I don't know how to even approach this position. I mean, at first glance, it seems like it doesn't deserve serious discussion because anything you do is just a draw. But yeah, Hikaru in his right of playing this one on. I agree.
Wow. So I was even looking at just king e2 immediately, trying to get out of this pin, and of course just activating king.
Yeah, so takes, but what's then after knight f5? I mean, you are free to just say, okay, I go knight f3 and nothing can happen, yeah? Maybe that's what you do, in fact. I was a bit bothered with rook h1, but then you attack the e-pawn, and after king f7, you just give a check, and you go back attacking the e-pawn. Maybe that's the thing. Shah goes for rook b8 check, which is honestly a bit surprising. It's once again probably nothing wrong, but why? Okay, checks, king goes to g6. That's I mean, if black wants to play, he's forced to go to g6.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure what it's supposed to mean, those two checks, because if anything, you've improved black king, and maybe one day it even goes to f5, like tries to penetrate into white's camp. So he must have had something specific in his mind, like, no, but really, what's the... I don't understand what he's doing, seriously. Like, the point is, it might be that something like this line takes on g5 and then go check and go check is just a forced draw. I mean, reaching this position, then playing rook e7, king f6, and rook h7 might be a draw still. But then nobody starts with checks. I think you start by trading on g5, only then you give checks. So that's really strange. Maybe you do not plan to take. Maybe you go rook e7 immediately. Okay, that might be the case. So like after king g6,
then rook c6.
You go here. No, I mean, rook c6, you unpin the knight, so I'm not bothered the slight bit. I mean, I'm taking here, going knight d3, going to e5. Kind of who is better? All of a sudden, might ask you. Yes, after all, yeah, king went to g6. No, but those are really like surprising checks, especially if Shach's gonna start thinking now, because it kind of doesn't end up very well. If you don't have a specific plan, what you just done is improved Black's king's position. So if you go about this game like I will give a couple of checks and things, then it's really strange. So apparently he has calculated some line before entering this one. It has to be like rook e7 or...
Yeah, and just to remind everyone, they have reached time control, so they're 44 moves into the game and have received an additional 30 minutes. This is still the original time, right? It hasn't been
still
added.
no half an hour added to any player's clock.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder how long this game's going to go. Like, we know it's going to be a draw. Players know it's going to be a draw, but, you know, still playing.
Do they know?
Do they know? Well, I wonder if you'd ask Hikaru. Remember yesterday someone was asking about Wesley Sau's game, I believe. Like, what is the percentage that Sau's going to win? What's the percentage for a draw, right? If you'd ask Hikaru how many percent he would give himself to win this one, I wonder if it's like 2%, which, by the way, makes it kind of worse trying, yeah, because you never lose with Black, and if you give yourself kind of a couple of percent to win, so why not try to use this couple of percent? Just in reality, I don't even think that you win 2 out of 100 games like this against Mamedyarov. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see. I don't know. I mean, that's
it is
really
quite an
strange.
incredible pawn structure. If you look at the pawn structure, Miro, and you put the pawn that's on f5 back on f6, and the pawn that's on
Wait a
f6...
second.
Oh, sorry. If you put the pawn that's on g5
So you
on
want the
g6.
hard formation, right? Is
Yes,
that what
exactly.
you want? Yeah,
It looks beautiful.
That's yeah, it's nice, and it's also kind of known, I think, from the games and quite possibly from chess composers. You know, there is such thing as, I mean, I don't know the English term, but basically when you start to when you try to picture something with the chess pieces, like schachography, something like that. I mean, there is a special dedicated branch of chess composition.
Chessography.
Yeah. Chess compositions.
Schach. That's cool.
Yeah, right. So now I really wonder what his plan was. Was it rook e7? Was it what else? Rook b6 kind of done. No, rook b6 doesn't do the job. Rook b6 allows king f5. And then for now at least everything's protected. So if you want to kind of the perpetual threats, you want to play rook e7, and then you either really put the rook, or kind of force the rook behind, after which you trade g5 and go knight d3, or king f5, rook h7. And I was even looking at such things. Knight okay, so he takes on g5, but that's the same, yeah? Takes on g5, fg5, rook e7.
King f6.
And rook h7, and that should do it.
And then just going back and forth, king g6, king f6. Okay.
That should do
And
it.
this is what Shaq wanted. I mean, he already offered this, probably an offer of like repetition when he played knight h2, knight f3, and then again just trading rooks later on.
Yeah, but that's... So very often, like bishop a4 would indicate that Black is ready to settle for a draw. So back then, when you allow the trade of pawns on the queen side, which was kind of a potential target for white and for Black also, yeah. But then, okay, so trade in king e2, surprisingly. So now is it Shach who's trolling Hikaru? I mean, by that point, I really don't know what goes on.
I would be very surprised if Shaq got some sort of mating net going, but although it's very unlikely that it happens.
Yeah. Rook.
Knight d3 is coming.
Rook
Knight
a1.
e5.
Yeah, well, Hikaru's point is clear. Now he wants to give a check and go knight g4, right? Like after knight d3, for instance. Yeah, it's a check, and you probably, like, surprisingly, you do not go to f3, but rather go to the first rank.
Right.
Yeah, and then knight g4, and the question is, like, is this an easy draw or not? Because it might be an easy draw, and then, but still, like, e5 pawn is somewhat of a weakness, and probably you don't want to, you don't want to do that. Okay, yeah, some pressure still.
Knight d3 was played.
Knight d3, rook a2 check. You can play rook b2, but then Hikaru's planning to trade and create the h-pawn and maybe hope for something. Yeah.
So maybe he won't do this.
Yeah, Paran, once again have to prevent my screen from going to sleep. Sorry.
Oh goodness. He's jumping onto the chessboard, everyone.
Well, actually, let me experiment. Yeah, I can try to.
Whoa.
How does that work? I mean, I want to play with the h6 knight. I mean, make some move with the h6 knight. Can I reach it somehow? Yeah, where is it? No, doesn't work really. Yeah, the technology, so the presence effect.
Chess in 3D, yes.
So after rook a2, I'm kind of speculating that the only way you can get in trouble is probably, but even so, yeah, like I was thinking, rook b2, you know, trade and some h4, and maybe this is the way you get in trouble, but it was such a limited pawn material, you can't get any danger still. White always should be able to kind of return back. And
yeah, Miro to h4.
and there is also, yeah, now I just realized, JC, there is king e1. There is king e1, where you absolutely cannot do anything with black, because knight g4, and I'm back to my old ideas. Attack this, then attack this. The knight from d3 guards f2. The king from e1 guards d2 square, so there is no rook d2 attacking the knight. So this setup for white, strangely, cannot be broken. And then what do you do? I mean, you could try to sneak in with the king, but only to get checkmated from c5. That's the only thing you're achieving if you are too persistent in trying to win. Yeah. So
I need to wait for a move.
Yeah, we're just waiting basically. By that point, we are just waiting for them when they finally agree that they had enough. When they'll finally agree that they had enough.
So chat says Miro about to put things in his own hands and end this in a draw himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, most likely. And no, so there's a question, why doesn't their clock show plus 30 plus minutes? So they haven't added this. I don't think either players have reached below, the original time control. So once they sort of time out, inverted commas, then they gain that extra 30 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, and once again, there is no specific reason for that, right? In some kind of using some clock, the time adds automatically as soon as the move 40 is made. And with this clock, you first have to sort of time out, which is, once again, perhaps kind of the legacy thing, the traditional thing, because using the analog clock, you would never know if you've made or didn't make move 40, right? So there've been examples of those like terrible time scrambles going on, on an analog clock with the flag, right? So your flag is basically hanging by a thread, and you keep playing the move, just hoping that you'll make time control. And then later on, you would find out that you made like 6 extra moves. And one of those was that bad that now you're lost. And would you keep track of how many moves made? Perhaps you'd have better luck. Yeah. So maybe that's partially this thing. But since they are required to keep writing down the moves, still doesn't make sense.
Right. Another question: does Shaq still have a chance to be a candidate? And I don't believe so this year.
No, well, unless granted this sport is a wild card. But like to
Right,
qualify,
there is a wild card,
yeah. Well, to qualify for the candidates, I don't think he has any. Yeah, that's the last qualification event. We had the World Cup, we had the Grand Swiss, right?
Yeah.
And this is it. That's his third way of qualifying. And fourth is by rating, right? So it's rating. It's 5. I mean, it's way too many. Way too many ways to qualify. And the candidates tournament is only, it's only 8 players, right?
Right. 8 players, double round robin, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a very long event. It's like 3 weeks or something.
Oh, they've got a lot of rest days
like
at least.
every third day is the rest day. Every third day is the rest day. But yeah, that's a very hard tournament. And I remember a funny interview by Grishuk about the candidates. But I'm not sure if it was an interview. Maybe it was kind of a privately mentioned. But I mean, I don't think he makes any sort of secret out of it, out of his opinion, because he had been to like 5 candidates at the very least, maybe more than 5. And yeah, I'm not sure, but 5 definitely. And he says like everybody is talking about the chance to qualify for the candidates, and then how cool would it be, and so on. And in reality, unless, well, that's now I'm trying to quote him as close to the original as possible. Like in reality, unless you run a chance of winning the candidates, it's a terrible tournament. That's what he said, because it's very long. It's very demanding. If you don't have the sponsors, you spend a lot of money preparing. Like you have to hire people. I mean, you're in a candidates tournament, right? So you have to hire people, and therefore you spend a lot of money preparing. So even a decent chunk of a prize fund, and the prize fund for the candidates was quite good, but it kind of merely makes you any profit, right? Because you've spent a lot of money preparing. And it's a very long tournament, very stressful tournament, and very often, as he says from his experience, like you would lose a chance to qualify at the middle of a tournament and still have 10 days to play. So,
It's still a huge thing to qualify. I mean, if you're qualifying for the World Championship, it's worth it playing if you know you stand a good chance. But even so, playing the candidates in itself is a feat.
Yeah, perhaps for a young uprising player, but when you're qualifying for the candidates for the 6th time in your life, 7th time in your life, and you still can't make it to the World Championship match, then one turns to look at things differently. For Shach, I'm trying to recall, what was the last time he played in the candidates? He did so in Khanty-Mansiysk for sure, Russia 2014, question mark, I don't remember, or 13 something, the one that was won by Anand. And then he did play in Berlin. In Berlin in 2018, the one that was won by Fabi. So he participated in 2.
Okay.
He participated in 2 candidates tournaments. So Grishuk might be the most experienced from, unless we count like the guys who are no longer playing. Like Kramnik apparently played the most number of candidates tournaments. Because I think that he played every single one that was up while his career would last. I think he played literally every single one, but I'm not sure once again. Okay, Shach goes rook b2. That might be kind of the easiest way of making a draw, but also a very responsible move. Also very responsible move, because now
Chair versus chair.
Black at least gets a chance to trade and, you know, as I said, like go h4, create himself a passed pawn,
Yeah.
which shouldn't be anything, but we shall see. Yeah, Mamdyarov, by the way, already kind of timed out, so that's the display on his clock, the 27 minutes is in fact the time he has till the end of the game. For Naka, it's 47, right? Okay, Naka trades, obviously. Rook b2, knight b2. And now, yeah, if you let white to come back into the game, like knight d3, knight d5 would be enough to claim the position is absolutely equal. So h4 played, I believe they've calculated the same line. So h4 played, it's captured, I believe king f3 is what you play.
Right.
Or king f3. So at least they are moving fast. At least they are moving fast.
There's something. There's something.
Yeah. King f3, and then your only objective is to make sure that h3 doesn't win on next two moves. And
maybe just coming back with the knight. The knight will probably go knight d3, knight d4.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say. So that, you simply had to calculate one line. So if black goes h3 now, do I lose? If the answer is yes, then you don't play rook b2. If the answer is no, then you probably do play rook b2, because with knight on f4, if the knight gets to f4 now, there's nothing really black can do. Yeah, but I'm really surprised with Naka, to be honest. I mean, the way he kind of pushes this on.
Someone in chat says Shaq may still be playing this game when the candidates start.
Yeah, it's like. What was the? I mean, I think it's a saying in Russian which probably does not exist in other languages, but like the amount of effort Hikaru puts into this game from certain moment on. Yeah, obviously it was an interesting game till, one with kind of Russian or rather Soviet background would describe as something like, the stubbornness which deserves a better application. So you could have, I don't know, go a bit more serious about some other stuff in your life and then not playing this drawish position. But who am I to criticize him? Because it's always a trick. Like if it would be the tournament game, then, and by the way, they've just agreed to draw. So quickly, before they go for an interview, wanted to finish that. In a tournament game, it would be really strange, because you have the tournament, you have a new game tomorrow, But in the mini-match, you are just as tired as your opponent, right? So if you can force him to play some very long, even drawish position, right? So it's not to your disadvantage most of the time. And it could be even some people's strategy. Like, I know the game's gonna be a draw, but let's drag it for like half an hour, 1 hour. But I don't believe that was Hikaru's intentions. It's just that, he played exactly till the point when he decided there is no chance whatsoever. Yeah, so after all my criticism is not deserved. Okay, so two tiebreaks it is. For the semifinals. Hikaru Nakamura and Shahryar Mamdyarov finished both of their semifinal classical games in a draw. And then Wesley So and Amin Tabatabai exchanged victories with the white pieces.
Right.
Yeah. So I believe waiting for the interviews with the players. So today's Tabatabai game was quite exciting. Once again, have to mention this. And poor Wesley So, hopefully he can kind of recollect himself to be back tomorrow for the tiebreak. It's really, I believe it's a painful loss. Just one little move. That's why the game of chess is so cruel.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think I already came up with this argument. Like if it's a football match and by 80th minute we are up 3-0, right? The match's over. But here, like, he should have made, I don't know, 3-4 solid moves and probably would make a draw. But
That's true, yeah. I mean, even Amin said it's once in a blue moon that you have this position, and I mean, one move is, or like a bunch of moves are lost and one move wins. And if it weren't for that one move, that rook d3, that he would have been completely lost in that position.
yeah. Right, so finals still, names of players in the finals still filled with question marks because, there will be 2 tiebreaks tomorrow happening. And we'll join the tiebreaks, we'll commentate the tiebreaks, right? Same time, 3 p.m. local time in Berlin. It's happening tomorrow. The tiebreak starts 1 hour before the online arena tournament, so you can join us, then play the arena and have us on background. We'll be commentating the tiebreaks of the semifinals. All right, I think this will be it for today. Thanks Jesse for joining, and see you tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow. And
see you tomorrow.
You have all the reasons to stay for a little bit and listen to the interviews with the players. But we'll see you tomorrow, guys.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Vidit Gujarati. I'm 27 years old, an international chess grandmaster from India. I'm also the brand ambassador for FIDE Online Arena. It's a place where you can play for online rating and online titles which can be recognized by FIDE officially. I feel chess is a sport which can be definitely played online, which other sports don't enjoy the luxury of. And the most important thing is that you can play from the comfort of your home, be it any time, against strong players all around the globe. And since the past 2 years, we have seen a boom in online chess. And be it for professional players or for people who have just started, I think it provides a great opportunity. In the next few months, I'll be streaming and playing games on the FIDE Online Arena. So be a part of it, and who knows, maybe we'll end up playing a game with each other. See you soon on the FIDE Online Arena.